So we're going to kick off with the 2025 Sizzix Halloween Classics. So let me just talk about what classics are and where my mind went for this release. So if you've been following the brand, you know that obviously we had many years, maybe 15 years almost, of new releases. And then we started doing some Vault collections, I want to say 2 years ago. And Vault really was like a reimagined release where I took different parts and pieces from different dies, resized them, reimagined them, and those were called Vaults. Classics that we're doing this year are the return of favorites exactly as they were, which means same size, same scale, same components, everything. So if you look at something and you're like, oh, I think I already own that die, then you do, because it is exactly the same. Other than updating the packaging to the color scheme, a black and white, they are the same. And why do we do that? Because, you know, it's been mixed. There's been people that are really thrilled that a lot of them have come back because maybe you didn't pick up all the ones that we chose for the classics this year. Others are like, oh, I have them all. You know what? If you have them all, still be happy. You should be celebrating because now you got money to spend on something else and you're going to get new inspiration because, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of makes, and so I always love to see new ideas with classics. So that's going to be the difference because we do have another classic release for Christmas. You know, maybe there'll be more Vaults in the future, who knows, but that's really the difference. So when you hear Vault from me, that really means that it's going to be a reimagined SKU. If you hear classics, it's going to be exactly the same. So these 6 dies are classics, meaning they are the return of some of my favorites that I chose. But we do have some new. There are 2 new 3Ds, but these are the large A5. So the designs, we actually have them in existing smaller 3D folders, but now we got the big ones, and that is Foliage and Kraft. So what I want to do is I'm just going to take you through, talk to you real quick about the dies, just show them, because they might be new to a lot of people. So I don't want to discredit that because I think it is important to see it, and maybe you don't even realize you have it. So maybe if you see it, you might be like, oh, hey, I think I have that. Okay. So these really were the older ones, and it's interesting because back in the day, the older packaging used to be brown, but the Leaf Fragments is actually one of the newer ones that still made a return because, like I said, classics are my favorites that I wanted to bring back. So shout out to Sizzix for letting me do that, letting me just kind of pick that, and a shout out to Jenn for finding a lot of this art because some of this art is really old, and we just wanted to bring it back. So the first one, and I think one of the most popular ones, and the one that I'm most excited about is this little guy, Layered Jack, and it's a jack-o'-lantern. So this was back in the day. I worked with a wonderful friend of mine. Her name is EL, and I worked with her at Sizzix for years. She's actually the one that, you know, really got me into the whole understanding dies in the first place. And I remember this one vividly when I was at Sizzix working in her office, and we came up with the idea of not just doing a die cut, but doing a die cut with these pieces that you would build on top of one another. And I remember this was back in the day. This was pre-colorized, pre all of those things. And we're like, wouldn't it be great if we did a die and we had like a base shape and then we had all these other little cutout pieces that you could stack on top? We didn't give it anything fancy other than name it Layered Jack, because at the time, layering all these pieces, especially when they were just highlights and shadows and lowlights, was very new. And actually, this is the one die that inspired Colorize for the whole series when we did that whole Colorize collection. So when we brought it back, we did call it a Colorize. So I guess there is a little modification of this one, not design-wise, but on this version, we actually did engrave the different colors on it, which the original didn't have, because it does belong in Colorize, just to celebrate that that's what it is. So he's a fun one because you'll see he just has great personality, and I love the ability to layer. Maybe you can light him up. There's so many different things for that guy. So I do love the Layered Jack. All right, I'm just gonna move that down. There we go. Now I'm caught up. Okay. Next up, we'll talk about this alpha. There was an upper and a lowercase of this one back in the day. This is alphanumeric cutout, and the cool thing about alphanumeric, if you're not familiar with them, this is where we do an alphabet collection where we give you multiples of letters and numbers. So there's 102 dies in this pack. I love the lowercase of this font, to be honest. So I really didn't want to bring the upper and lower. I just wanted the lower to make a return. And here's what makes it really fun about this is because it's got a great, very paper cutout aesthetic to it. The smaller letters, they measure about a 1/2 inch in height, and say like the F, the H, the J, the taller ones, that's 3/4 of an inch. So it's still It's a great size font for cards, but also you can do quotes in journals. You can do a lot of cool things, and it just looks like you went in with your scissors and you cut it out. But I wanted you to see, and a shout out to Pete for making this sample to send. But it looks great when you have the actual individual letters and numbers, but it makes a wonderful knockout, meaning because you have multiple letters, you can actually place those letters, spell a word on a card or a tag, whatever, die cut it, and then you get that cutout. So it's not like you're trying to, I mean, depending on your word, you should have enough letters to do the word that you want and cut it out. So it's a cool one. So sometimes you look at the package, you're like, I don't get it. But when you see it, I hope that it helps you understand. And you'll see from the makes as well what makes it a really cool one. All right, I'm going to set that off to the side. Then we have her. She is fabulous. This is Witchcraft, just a very vintage style witch silhouette with a broom. So that's one piece. Then there is a cat, a very cool, jaggedy, creepy skippity cat, and then the stars on this die. And the stars are clustered together, so you can place it down and it does create that negative cutout, but you also have a lot of mini stars to work with. And this is what I mean by mini stars to work with. Let me bring this piece over here. There we go. There she is. So this is one silhouette, but of course you can always just make a little snip right there with your scissor, and you could have just brooms that you may want to use for something. That's easy to do. And then of course there's that cat, but the cat does fit on her back. It's just not attached. So just know, there you go. It's in a different color. And then of course the stars, using it either positive or negative. So it's a classic. It's a good one. This is another one that I love seeing on social media, how many people were excited to see the return of this haunted house. Again, it's a silhouette die. It's so weird to look back as well, because obviously as the years progressed, the dies got way more complex. You know, I mean, gosh, I think in today's world, I wouldn't even dream of just doing like a single silhouette die. You know, it would have layers and shutters and windows and all sorts of pieces, but there is beauty in simplicity. And I think the aesthetic of this house is very cool because you get a really strong silhouette. You can back the windows with things, transparencies, glow. I mean, you're going to see some ideas from the makes, but it really is a classic house. And then of course this really skinny but very jaggedy crescent moon. So it's still not smooth. It's got some great personality. And then those three little flying bats. So it's a cool die. And wait till you see, there's a make that Tammy B did that just really takes this die to a whole nother level. I loved seeing the idea when I was setting up. I'm like, that is really clever. All right. Then we have this. This is a favorite of mine. This is called Trick or Treat. Now this, believe it or not, was actually a vintage piece that I found. I actually found or purchased a paper cut. It's, you know, back in the day when people would just go in and cut silhouettes, kind of like Main Street at Disneyland. But it was of all these trick-or-treaters, and the original piece is actually quite long. So there's more to this than just this shorter piece of art. But we consolidated just so it could still fit on a card. But I love that silhouette, and I love the fact that it's actually been in several dies. I think maybe when it first came out, maybe it was a decorative strip. I can't remember because I don't keep my decorative strips. But I know this was one of the vaults that we did way, way, way back when in a smaller size. But I love seeing it in a bigger size. I love, obviously, the cat. And any of these things can actually be cut apart as well, if you think about it. Like, it's very easy just to cut that out and use the silhouettes individually because they're paper cut, or group a couple of them together. Take the cat by itself, but it also has the bat and, of course, the Trick or Treat. It is in stamps. You're right. It is a stamp, too, because I loved this art. I think the stamp might be the whole deal. I think that might be where the whole silhouette is. All right. Then we've got this. I couldn't not do this because when I found out this die retired, I was really shocked because it is just my all-time favorite from the leaves. And, you know, things retire because the sales slow down. So when they had the opportunity, I'm like, hey, I want it brought back. They're like, yeah, but it just retired like maybe just over a year ago. I'm like, so what? When people see it, this is one of those, don't be fooled by just looking at it going, it's just a leaf. This leaf could be used all year. I've seen people use it in metallic, just cutting it out of gold or silver or glittery elements, and use it even on wedding invitations or decor for parties, for napkin rings, all that. It's also beautiful at Christmas because it kind of looks like vintage magnolia leaves, where you can do it in soft greens. You can do a little bit of metallic embossing on the edges. But when you see the inspiration for this one, just remember, it's a glorious one. The other cool thing to remember is the scale of this. That's why I wanted to bring this one out, because on the package, you'll look and be like, oh, these are tiny leaves. Now compare a leaf to, say, the Trick or Treat, okay? The large leaves on this set are 4 inches tall. So just one leaf is perfect for a card front, okay? The smaller leaves, they're about 3 inches, and we're talking from top to bottom. So it also is perfect for home deck. You can actually stamp on them and tie things and embellish it and put it in pockets of a junk journal. I mean, they just have a lot of potential. So I just want you to remember that, because you know, you still might not be kind of sold on the leaves, but hopefully after today, you'll totally get it, all right? Now let's talk about the 3Ds. We have Foliage and Kraft. Now, Foliage is just it's a beautiful pressed leaf. And like I said, these are larger versions of the original, I'll just say regular size, standard size that we did for A2. What's cool about Foliage is it gives you kind of this leaf impression, but you can either get this debossed as if the leaves were kind of put into, say, concrete, right, and then pulled off. But also the other side is just as beautiful. So this is one of those folders that really works well either way, because this is going to give you can see much more the definition of the leaves, and of course the veining is debossed. But this is really the front of it where it's actually pressed in and you get all the details. And I'm going to demo this one possibly and kind of show you that as well, which is good. Yes, Teresa, if you're talking about Foliage, remember classics are exactly the same. No change. So all of those dies I just showed you, exactly the same as the original. No change. All right. So that is Foliage. Thanks, Mario, for pointing that out. He comes over and he gives me a little point. All right. Then we've got Kraft. I love this one. Thank you, Jenn. Because when we wanted to make it bigger, it wasn't really, I wanted it scaled, but I didn't want these cracks scaled, if that makes sense. Like we wanted to go bigger because see, obviously when we scale the folders bigger, right, the leaf, everything gets larger. But for the cracks, I'm like, I'd like to kind of keep the cracks as close to this scale as possible. You can see that. But I want more of a repeat. I want just a larger area because I just felt that if we increase the cracks too much, it wouldn't look like crackle. It would just look like, I don't know, canals. I didn't want that. I still wanted to keep that. So thank you, Jenn, for taking that art. And I think, I mean, really, she just did like a seamless, amazing look. I mean, you can start pulling together the repeat in there, but when you see it all together, it is so amazing. Look at that. So that, of course, is going to be the debossed. And there you go. Look at those. So this could actually even look like tree bark if you wanted it to, right? If you flip it over, it just, I don't know, something about texture that don't underestimate the power of a good folder because it could change something so good. It is amazing on acetate. I saw that. I actually did, I think this was several Christmases ago, and I'm going to use this at Christmas. If you emboss a piece of acetate, it literally looks like ice crackled glass. So beautiful. But I'll be demoing that at Christmas. I've got to feel the Halloween vibes. Love it. So that is the release of the 2 folders and, of course, the return of classics. So Mario, can I hand you some of this stuff if you don't mind? Thank you. Thank you. I don't know how far I want this stuff to be.
I'll just put it right here.
All right. Thanks. I'll just take some of these. I like to say a little organized because sometimes when we get into the makes, it is good for me to reference. So let me hand you those.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll give you that. Thank you. All right. I'll kind of keep these close by and we'll see what happens. Thanks. So before we get into the creative makes, I also just want to talk about dies and life cycle because it seems like whenever we do a release, there's always a lot of chat about, you know, people looking for other things and people are happy that something's returned or wondering, you know, what took so long to come back. Here's the thing to understand about Sizzix brand, because I could talk about that in particular. Not everything has this everlasting life cycle. Life cycle depends on sales, popularity, consistency of sales, because when they reorder dies, they have to reorder them in volume. And if there's not enough volume to make for an order, it just gets retired. But the thing to note also about dies, and if you're not familiar with that life cycle, it is important, and I understand budget is everything, but if you see something you like, you should get it if you can, because the secondary market of dies is just crazy, stupid. Like, for example, this guy, he's been on eBay for probably the last year and a half for $100. That's insane, the price. So that's also the inspiration that we had to like bring back these classics, because people were saying, you know, oh, I really want this, but you know, it's $100 or $200 on eBay. It's crazy. But that being said, I wanted to take this chance because I did go online last night and I wanted to see if any of the ones we did last year were still available, because all of these that I'm going to show you have been retired, meaning They're not currently made, but there is inventory in the marketplace. So if you're out there shopping, just want you to be mindful. So last year's vault of the funky wreaths, this is the funky fall wreath with all the cool twigs and branches and all that, retired, but it's still available. I've seen it. This one, absolutely love that little hocus pocus, a different style witch, but all these little trinkety bits, these are going to be important because you might see them show up in some of the makes. But remember, this was vault last year. So if you didn't get it and you have the budget to get it, I would suggest getting it because it's gone. Right? I'm just looking. Yeah, can't sell it for $100 now. No, they can't. You're right, Jill. I know. I love seeing the chat because it's like you guys totally get it when you're looking for stuff. It's crazy. I see Simon says Stamp has a bundle of classics on sale. Ooh, cool. Yeah, so definitely look out there for people that have it, or just be reminded if you're looking for it. So this was another vault from last year, still available but retired. So you'll see some of the makers use cobwebs in there. I love the little ghosts. And a lot of these things could be used with this year's release. You know, obviously you can have the little creepy clouds and moon, maybe behind the layered jack. You could have even the little ghosties fly out of his mouth. I mean, there's cool ways to use it. These words, I know there's a make that Zoe Hillman did using Wicked. So these classic ones that people wanted, they were only back for 1 year. So I just want to like remind you of that. So I do love that. I love the words, the bat, that big creepy spider. This one, a favorite. I was surprised it was still available, but I'm happy that it's still available because this is a coffin box. This is that 3D paper box with a removable lid. And then you have the skulls, the bats, the cross. So we also use that little skull in there. And then that really cool alphabet. Then there were some ones that were like way back that I'm just showing you because, again, I just Googled it just to see what was available. This is my personal favorite. This has been retired for several years now, but I still saw some inventory in the marketplace. What I love about it is got that silhouette, that strong shadow. So if you look at the color, that's one die, like a framelit. And then it has that coordinating die that is that face. So you've got the framelit that cuts the color, and then you've got that detailed one that cuts the black. But the cool thing is that like on the skull, the cat, the witch, all of these are all connected. So what's wild is like you see it and everything is connected except for the little pupils of the witch eye or just that ghosty face. So it's very easy just to lay on top of a color. So imagine this like on, you know, sparkly paper or whatever. These also, if you happen to have the rosette die, these are perfect to go in the center of that paper rosette, or if you're going to do a paper garland, because you can see the size is pretty big. It's really great that you could do a garland or any kind of party favor. Again, other classic. Remember when these came out and Mario spent the whole live going, eek? I totally remember that. But I love that. The big frights, it's just, they're very cool. I saw that. And again, when I say I see it, I just saw a listing. Doesn't mean I saw hundreds. It could have just been one. And then another one of my favorites, I love the bold frights because again, you have all of those quotes that you just die cut. Again, big scale that drop out, but you also get those letters. I saw Spencer. He was fun. I didn't see a lot. I didn't see this one, but I did want to talk about it because you're going to see, and thanks again to Sizzix for not only sending the makes, but also to the makers that continue to make for the Sizzix brand and have contributed their makes for the live. I'm so excited. They'll all be on timholtz.com following this. I'll have all the makers and linked and all that. But this was one that I saw show up again and again in several makes. Including one that I did because it is a favorite. It is retired and I couldn't find this one. So who knows, maybe it could be a classic in the future, but one of my favorites because Moonlight has the moon and all the bats. But there you go. That's the thing that if you have it, you're probably sitting there going, yeah, I have it. And if you don't, you're like, well, there you go. All right. So that was kind of my other little review that I wanted to talk about before we get into the makes. But now it is time to make. See, he remembers it. It was the Yervik. It's good. All right, let's get into the makes. So I'm going to start actually with this because it made me so happy when I was setting up last night and I saw several makes where the makers used alcohol neons. So, and I'm starting a first make, it uses neon. So it was like, oh, let me grab that stuff that I did from the neon demo. If you missed this demo, you could check it out. It's on YouTube. It's also on the website. But these alcohol neons, these just came out with Ranger this year. They are amazing. It's a pigment-based alcohol ink. So it shows up on translucent, on white, but also on black because they're not translucent. They're opaque. but the colors are incredibly cool because they show up really well under black light, which I'm going to show on the first make. We also did some neon glitters because you can take clear rock candy and you can color glitter. I'm not going to demo that because I already did in the video, but also glow paste because you're going to see make with the grit paste glow. And this will be coming back this year from Ranger as a seasonal release. So meaning they only make it once a year, but this is a glow in the dark paste. It comes this color, but you can use the neons to actually color this paste. And when I say neons, like the cool thing about this one, this will actually glow in the dark, but neon is pretty cool because if you have a black light, this is just a little, I mean, it shows up pretty magical with a black light. It's very, very cool. So that's one thing that I wanted to talk about because you'll see in some of the makes like, whoa, it's super bright. Those are the neons. So let me just hand you that, Mario, and I'm gonna, thank you very much. So here we go. This first make, this is from Sharon, and this is what I was saying about the alcohol neons. I'm actually get the black light again and just show you, like, look at that. Look how cool that is.
That shows up so good.
It's just, to me, it is wildly cool. I'm actually gonna even hold it a little closer. I love that. I mean, literally, I got this little flashlight, like, this was like $6. I love that little black light, but you can get bigger black lights as well. But so what's cool about this card, here Sharon used the leaf fragment. So again, I told you, like on the leaves, even if you love bright colors, beautiful. It doesn't always have to be the fall vibes. The background, this is just the black Heavystock, but she used the new cracked folder. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. I mean, you could definitely see it. There you go. You can see some of that. There you go, that cracked texture. But I also love how she continued and did the little splattering of the alcohol neons on the background. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so when I saw it right away, I'm like, oh, neon, so good. I love the colors. And she used the neons with alcohol ink. So it's not just all neon. You can see there's the neon, but then she used regular alcohol inks in there. I just think it's wonderful. So if you like just color, it's a great way to incorporate that leaf fragment. But it goes on, it's a pretty big card, really bold. This make, Jenn created this. Jenn Shirkus. I love how she used, again, fall vibes. Had to do a little splash of teal as she would, but then she also used some rock candy on there. So you see just a little bit of glitter, but it just gives it just a nice little sparkly vibe. I love the texture paste in the back with the Stampers Anonymous stencil, and then it's the little things that make life big. So, I mean, that's nice with the whole fall colors, but it doesn't have to be super dark, super grungy either, does it? No. All right. Let's see. Perfect. Then Pete, a shout out to Pete. So Pete is the guru at Sizzix UK. Pete does not have social. He doesn't have Instagram that I'm aware of or YouTube or anything. But typically if you go to Sizzix UK or go to Sizzix YouTube channel, you can see Pete's wonderful videos that he does. So thank you, Pete, for always just being such a great supporter and champion the brand. So when I saw the makes that Sizzix were using in their marketing when this launched, I'm like, could you please send me Pete's makes? I'd love to show them for live. So they sent them from the UK in time to show. So thank you, Sizzix. And again, thanks, Pete. I love his aesthetic and style. He's obviously been making with Sizzix forever. And I always just love his styling. He's absolutely brilliant with the ideas. But here you can see just, a single leaf and pair it with some cardstock, some stamps, a little sentiment. You can put a couple of them together and just tie that. And that's just inked and splattered. You can also incorporate that with the texture fade. I love that. Love the little drops on there. So it's just a fun way that you can also, if you're cutting out a set of leaves, this was cool that you saw like a whole cluster of leaves, a smaller cluster, some singles, but how you can make a whole series of cards, which I think is really great. And then we have this make. This is from Tammy B. I love this tall slim line. I love the details of it. So here you can see the background of that foliage folder. And this is what I was saying, that sometimes when you see it just in the packaging, and I don't blame you, like I'd look at that and be like, well, that just looks like a hot mess. And to me, on the black and white, it does. But when you see the texture for what it is, it just really elevates a make. I love the way that folder, it just has that subtle look to it. And it certainly is a great background for a single leaf. But let's talk about this. This was something that when these leaves first came out, I shared. There is actually a stamp set. If I could, just have to find it. I have it I just don't know what I did with it between yesterday and today. Do you remember what I did with it, Mario?
Nope.
No, it's going to be somewhere. It'll show up. There we go. I filed it. Okay. This is a stamp set, and there's several stamps that I did with Stampers Anonymous, but this one in particular is really cool. It is called Pressed Foliage. It's CMS 376. And this one, because of all the little details, you can take the leaves and you can stamp it to get all of that little veining. Now, there is not a stamp as big as this leaf. So I'm sure Tammy just inked up part of this leaf, pressed it in, inked it again, and then just moved the leaf down and pressed it again. So you still, so it's not totally perfect, but it gives you the illusion that it is. So if you are looking for a way that you can bring in some detail, this is a great stamp set to do that. There's other leaves that I did that maybe have a crackle vibe or something, but this one is just really, it's just really cool. And I love how Tammy just kind of kept it simple. She also took the plaid, there's a plaid background stamp that I did, and stamped that alphanumeric cutout. But see how you're going to see these letters just pop up. It's really perfect. Autumn is calling. But beautiful. Like just a great way to incorporate the leaves in so many different ways, just aesthetically. And there's other inspiration. The thing that I did for live is I only selected a few makes because I didn't take all the makes, because I want you guys to go and find all the different makers and see what else they're doing. So here is a make that Pete did using just that foliage as a background. So this is just done on black cardstock, and then he does his wonderful paint magic, just brayering and swiping different colors of paint. And then autumn is my favorite cooler. We always say cooler when we see it like that. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. This is where that alphabet, it may look very whimsy at first, but it just has a cool handmade aesthetic to it. That's what I like. But yeah, so this could go in a frame. This could go on an easel. This could go on an old clipboard. And that's it. I mean, it's a sheet of paper with a quote that you do. That's the whole idea of seeing the makes also, is that you could be inspired when you see how things could be put together differently. Just so many different ideas. I also love this. I mean, really, when I saw Pete's stuff, I'm like, Pete just rocked it. And this surprised me because I haven't seen these yet on any of the photos, but I'm sure he's going to do something. But take a look at what he did with these leaves. These were just kind of put in the package, and I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like sometimes there's beauty in simplicity. So these are just metallic embossing powders. It could be any embossing powder. I'm not sure if he used these exact ones, but these are the ones I have from Ranger. Gold, silver, copper, and liquid platinum. And he just cut out the leaves just in cardstock, just white cardstock. Use your embossing ink. Maybe you have an embossing dabber, Versamark, whatever, and then just emboss them with metallic embossing powder, right? So this one, I love that liquid, but then these, he totally covered them and then stamped into them while the embossing powder was hot. Remember the old school technique? Take a script stamp or something and just, do your embossing ink, heat it up, get a nice layer. Maybe you want to do 2 or 3 layers, and then while that embossing powder is hot, you press in a rubber stamp, you let it cool, you peel it off. But take a look at all these. Look at this one with that postmark. See, that's a Stampers Anonymous. I recognize that Paris stamp right there in gold. But see, even the cutouts of this die, that's what makes it like magical, those cutouts. A little platinum one, and take a look at the copper. Those beautiful. So this, just making these, even if you're not making cards, this would be great to put on a table, maybe for, fall dinner or Thanksgiving, or maybe you're just going to put these like on a napkin ring, or you're going to put these around, the base of a candle. It's a simple idea that when you see it, you're like, my gosh, all I need is just a die, just cut it out of cardstock and then use my embossing powders. And obviously these are metallics, but you could use embossing glaze or whatever you wanted to do. So just some really clever, cool ideas to use with that die. So now you can see like the return, it was a good move to bring that back because I think that's absolutely beautiful. All right, there we go. Let's move some stuff out of the way. Thanks, Mario. I'm gonna stack these up. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Next up, let's start with this. We'll start with another Pete one. We're like on a Pete roll here, but we'll get into some other makes because this one really highlighted that cracked 3D really well, and also, of course, that cutout alphabet. So I do love this background because again, just taking black cardstock, he embossed it, but he also just cut this apart. So I don't want to disassemble his make, but cutting that into strips, then it became more like planks and panels, and he put together that background and then just put it on a solid foundation. But I just love the colors and the finishes of that. And then again, using that alphabet, Something Wicked This Way Comes, using little skull and crossbones, painty grunge. But again, using your embossing folders. And even if you didn't have the big one, let's say just a big folder is not in your budget, you could take that smaller one if you have it and emboss it. Would probably emboss about like that high. But see how you can piece them together? Go for it. The whole idea about this release for classics is to inspire you to use what you have, get what you want, and just make. That to me is super important. But I also feel that, you know, like sometimes when this alphabet was first released, it sold, it was okay, but I don't think people got it the way I loved it. And now when I see these makes, I'm like, they get it. Because that whole idea of embracing wonky, and I can actually embrace my wonkiness with this one, I just love it. It's such a cool font because it could be grungy, colorful, you name it. All right. Speaking of grungy and colorful, I'm going to talk about this guy. He's so cute. The layer jack. So this is a card. Joy made this one. It's got a little thinger on there, a little wobbler. And I love how she did the little, it's like the jack on cracked. There he is. He's on that cracked background. There's that little cutout, boo. But this little face right there, this is the grit paste glow. So yes, her foundation layer, she just spread some of that grit paste glow on that cardstock. Could be before or after you die cut. It's up to you as long as the paste is dry. But I love the idea that when it's going to be dark, he will glow. His face will glow. I don't think it's going to show under a black light. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it does. There you go. There's your glow. How fun is that? I did read about black light working for glow in the dark. So we don't have to shut off the light. But isn't that fun? See, there's his face and it glows. So great. Absolutely love that. And I do love that he's on, you know, she knows I love a good little wobbler and a good little shakety shake. And she did not fail on this. She's like, here you go. There's a little, because I'll just sit here for probably an annoying amount of time in a live. I've gone back and seen some of my lives. I'm like, hey, 5-year-old, put that down. But I do love it. So cute for the jack. This card, Kubert did this. I love that. I love seeing just the grouping of these jacks. I love the different colors. This is what makes this die so fun. And again, in its time, back in the day, it was like, honestly, it was revolutionary. It was like, what? Like we're actually going to build little puzzle pieces on top of a die? I mean, yeah, there were other things. There were always centers of flowers and leaves, but there just weren't like weird little lines that were part of a die. And yeah, when EL and I did this, it was like, yeah, why not? It shouldn't be too complicated. And honestly, a lot of people skip this little highlight step because they didn't get it. But now in today's maker world, it makes perfect sense. I love how, oh, look at that. I just noticed Kubert used the cracked folder in the background. So see the black layer, which is the solid layer for those, she embossed with the crackle. There's a Stampers Anonymous stencil with some texture paste. I love that old school writing. There's some stamping. So that's the other thing to remember, that, you know, sometimes just a single die could get you to start using things in your stash where you're like, okay, now that I've got, you know, the star of the show, I can use that stencil again. I can use that stamp. I can just mix and match. That to me is the magic of seeing stuff either return, because I think it does have a great classic look to it, but also it could be new for a lot of people. I love the colors, don't you? So fun. All right. Pete created this one. It was just a simple one, but it was cute because I love that it was on a tag. This is the moon mask in the background, a little inky background, but this could be a tag. So again, treat bag, you know, maybe a fun Halloween bottle of wine. I do say bottle of wine a lot in lives, but there's always great ideas for tags or maybe a garland. And then we have this one from Vicky. I always love Vicky's industrial approach to most things. And she did this with 2 different dies. So this is the first make. You'll see another one coming up. But I love how she took, this is an etc. tag. So that's just a thick, heavy board. These are from Stampers Anonymous. They're really solid. So this is great for home decks. So I love the thick jute that she put on there because you could hang it up. But just take a look. I'm just going to slowly kind of move it around where it looks like it's been forged out of metal. I mean, shut up. Like, it's just so thick and grungy and delightful. Oh, it's got like a texture of some grit paste. It's just got this metallic vibe. There's some Ideology hardware to really give it that robust look to it. The background, of course, that's cracked. So that's the new large A5 3D folder. It's ultimate background, but she still did a metallic treatment to it. But isn't that just great? I mean, really, it's something you would just see like a metal wall plaque for Halloween. So there's Jack, and that's the Trick or Treat from the Trick or Treaters. So again, one of the things when I was choosing what to bring back, I love the Trick or Treaters, but I love this connected word because this is actually one die, the whole Trick or Treat. So when you cut it, you don't have to glue and piece letters together. It just makes it simple. But see, from a scale perspective, it's spot on with the layer Jack as well as the Trick or Treaters. So, so good. Love it. All right. Beautiful, beautiful makes. All right, I'm just going to kind of clear. I could just go on and on. And there's other ones, really. I'll admit, it was hard to just choose stuff, but I think for the lives, for me, you know, those 3-4 hours on my feet, that's a lot. Okay. Ooh, another one. I look and I'm like, ooh, another one that's neon. So let me find the die here first. There we go. Getting into the trick-or-treaters because I just talked about that. So Sharon created this card. This is using alcohol neons, but I also love the background because the background is using sparkle paste. So it's kind of it's a glossy paste. It's got little flecks of glitter in there. There you go. Hold that up so you could really see. But I love how she used the alcohol neons on the Trick or Treat. There's that moon that I was telling you about that you'd see from a lot of makers. You'll see it a lot. But yeah, black light, I mean, come on. Ooh, so good. I just love how that glows. It's so wild. And it doesn't really glow, but I mean, it just shows in black light. You get what I mean. The grit paste glow glows in the dark. This just shows up. And even when you colorize the grit paste glow, like I showed at the beginning, it's still going to glow and it has a little bit of a color tint to it. But isn't that great? Just the silhouette is so simple because it really stands out against the background. I just love it. It's so fun.
Joy needs to buy black light now.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
I can't believe how well that works for how small.
Yeah, it was $6.99, honestly. I mean, they have a bazillion of them, but it's like, I just wanted something that was just kind of small because I wanted to show it. The other one that I showed when we did neons was like something we use outside in the house for Halloween. It's crazy. But yes, like black light. Beautiful. All right, here's another one. Rochelle created this one. I don't know why I put this away. So here, I can't wait. I haven't lit this one up yet. But here's what's cool that Rochelle did. The card base, okay? So she just did like a black card base, but this background right here is black that she used the neons. So she used the alcohol neons, kind of blew the color, but see how well they show up over black? So wild. And then I love how she replicated the background, but this was really wild. This is alcohol ink sparkle. So this is actually, I don't want to say it's a glittery cardstock because the sparkle is not glitter. It's ultra, ultra fine. And the surface of it is perfect because it is alcohol inkable. So this is also from Ranger. So this is alcohol sparkle cardstock. But then she stamped that giant spider web. See, again, old school. If you haven't been collecting stamps, like you can get that giant spider web background. And then the stark contrast of the trick-or-treaters and then Trick or Treat. And I just love how she colored. And then she even added another piece. So she like cut the ore again. So she had it in purple. So let's take a look at that. Oh, come on. Ridiculous. Isn't that cool? It's just so amazing. I love it. Wild, wild. Absolutely love the whole idea of this. Yeah, if you're decorating or whatever you're doing for Halloween, yeah, just have a black light. That's what you need. You have a party, like everyone gets one of these when they come in. It's fun. All right. Then we have this card. Joy did this, a little shakety shake. So I love that this is kind of the all over shaker. It's got some mica in there, but also love it's got some distress spritz, or this might even be mica stain. I'm not sure. I mean, because it would be either one depending on how she started. But this really looks like, to me, it looks like hickory smoke spritz. But I love that little sparkle. There's the Trick or Treat, also with some spritz. Just, isn't that wonderful? Beautiful, beautiful. I agree, Scrapbook Central. The neons are very special. And it's funny because when we launched these, it was more, you know, it was a little earlier, but it was immediately thinking Halloween. So many people watching the live as well. Yeah, Spritz for the win. It's glorious, isn't it? So I love the shakety shake, but I also love just the shimmer of that because Spritz is good. Going to demo that. And this is a card that Pete created. Again, just doing a background. There's the mask. I love how he incorporated some old school stamps. Stampers Anonymous. Look at that skull and crossbones in the mirror. Totally reminds me of Peter Pan. Has Peter Pan vibes with the little splatter and the skull. But there's our trick-or-treater silhouette and trick-or-treat. So when you look at the die, you're like, oh, it looks really simple. Because it is. But that's what makes it so cool. It really, I mean, that to me is the wild thing. It's only 3 dies. When you see it all, you think, oh, it's really complex. It's 3 dies. That's one piece, that's one piece, that's one piece. So the build of these is really simple because you can do all your inky play fun and then plop that down, cut as many bats as you want, and off you go. But I always love the juxtaposition too that Pete does with his cards, you know, where he's got just stuff a little bit. Like, it's so pleasing to my eye, even though I'm so not a wonky guy. But it's some way he kind of goes wonk and then ends up center. I don't know what kind of wizardry that is, but my eye still sees it as like squared. I don't know. I love it. Okay. Keep going. Zoe Hillman created this. I love this little scene. This is an etc. tag. Again, that's that thick tag, which makes a really good foundation for things. Here she just used some paper. This is the ideology backdrop. But there you can see that cool moonlit. I love how she did it in grays because this die has 2. I keep showing it, not to tease you, but I think if you have it, you'd be like, oh, it works really well with these classics. But I love the big moon that it's in grays. There's the bats. But if you take a look at this, you see how she cut this out of 2 different colors of cardstock, layered them, but kind of offset it just a little bit, which kind of makes it look like the moonlight is kind of reflecting off of these trick-or-treaters. See what I mean? So we've got this that's all like nice and grungy and black and gritty, and then just another little layer, boop, just slightly offset. And then we've got the gates. It's an older, I think this might have been in the vault. Yeah, the vault one. And then Trick or Treat. I love the little bit of little janky moss right there, and just the inking of Trick or Treat, and just the stacking, just the dimension of multiple dies just stacking is just, it's cool. Isn't that neat? There's a great, I love seeing them because you can just see this die in so many different ways and be like, yeah, I can totally do that. I can just make and be excited about it, right? Emma created this one. It's a big card, but this could also go into a frame or anything. And it's interesting because, I mean, had 2 different makers, totally different parts of the world, just created stuff, but same but very different, even in the whole feel of it. So Emma created this one. Hers, she's got just more metallic, I would say. I don't think it's offset in the shadow, but it's like the background layer, if you will. There you go. Dimensionalized. So it's just got metallic outline. There's some metallic cardstock that's alcohol inked, a little corrugated paper, some little gate pieces. But back here, she just used the moon mask to do inking, doing an old branch stamp, and then some little bats there. Bats, little Halloween butterflies, what they are, little bats right there. And then this is the Craftstock Sparkle. This is the plaid that we did. This didn't come back this year, but I love that. I love that sparkly, see that sparkly plaid that she used as the background? It's a good paper. Yeah, nice scene, but see, totally different aesthetics, color-wise and composition-wise. Beautiful, cool 3D effect. And then this is that second make from Vicky that I told you about. Again, etc. tag, crackle background. This one's done in purple, but see how she created that, like, this technique. I hope she blogs about it because I gotta check it out. Although you have to like fill in the blanks on the blog to kind of see how she did it, but I love just how gritty and so industrious. It literally looks like a pressed metal plate because you can't even see the seams of paper. See, so even though these are stacked, like she just kind of rubs in that paste just to create a metallic plate of that plaque, that Trick or Treat. So, you know, that is the other thing that shows you, like, you know, when you have a cool technique or a cool look, you can apply it to so many different things when you're working with it. It's just like, it's a brilliant idea for a simple classic, if you ask me. I love all those ideas. So good, right? I know it would fit perfect in the Haunted Mansion. This is fun. Love it. All right.
I'll take that.
Thank you. It's all so cool. And honestly, I can't wait. I'm going to start making with the neons for Halloween because I just, wow.
Thank you.
So good. All right. Moving on, we have a few more. We've got the haunted house. Now, the haunted house, as I mentioned, you know, it's, there again, simple. You've got one piece and then you've got the 3 bats and the moon. But you can still tell a great story with the die. So Keisha created this card. I love how she used this background. It's got all of that great crackle. So she used kind of the reverse of the crackle, if you will, because you know that folder will deboss the design. But like I said, you flip it over, and then I love how she just hit the high areas with some ink. Isn't that cool? Really, really neat how she did that. And then use that. This, I don't know. We'll see. I was like, is this neon? I think this is neon, actually, that she used as a backdrop. So the thing to know about this particular die, this die cuts out the windows. So if you're going to put something in the background, you could either, like, you know, quickly trace around the die on a background so you can cut a solid piece, but there's not like a solid windowless die is my point. But you can still back it like she did. I love that. But let's take a look. Oh, heck yeah. See? Come on. Look at how that house just lights up. Boom. With the neon. Holy moly.
I love that.
That's so good. And she also used the neons on the moon and the stars just a little bit, and it's kind of grungy, so it's just done over black paper. Very, very cool. And then a little stamp, something wicked this way comes. Wow. That's wild, isn't it? So cool. Cool way to incorporate this. It's just a great detail die. That's why I wanted to bring it back. Pete created this card. I like how he just did a circle for the moon and then actually used the crescent moon in there. So it gives it like a double moon aesthetic. Just cutting a circle. Who knew that cutting a circle and inking would be so impactful? Oh, that's right. Pete knew. And I love how he just kept that highlight there, little crescent moon. But then we've got the haunted house. He also did a background layer just to light up the windows with just some ink blending. Ooh, there's some stamping on that house. I just noticed that. Can you guys see that? There's like a little bit of that French script just kind of stamped over the house. That's a nice detail. Really cool. And then just put on a stamped background, little Happy Halloween. Great. I love those colors, right? I think they're beautiful. Yes, the blue moon. So pretty. It's a great circle idea. Because you would think like the circle's a moon, but like the moon in the moon, it's still, I don't know. Yeah, it's good. All right. Then we have this card. This is from Tammy B. And this is what I was saying is a really clever idea. See, she gave me the little idea on there on the back. Another slimline. I love the colors. I love how she did that really dark kind of starry night, inky background, the little crescent moon. But see, isn't this haunted house so cool? But look at the card. So if you noticed, you see the distinct difference. This die cuts this little jaggedy edge. Okay, so the bottom of this die, it's going to cut out that weird little edge. But I love how she took that haunted house and it has no cut edge, okay, because that gave it this illusion like it's perched on top of a mountain or something like that. And that's really just moving your cutting pad, right? So it says don't put the cutting pad over the bottom of the house. So when you're die cutting this, let's see, do I have my die still handy? Yeah, I got it. Thanks. I can just show this visual pretty quick. So and you can do this with a lot of dies, but it's always cool when you see like one of those just techniques that people do. So typically when you were cutting it, you'd put your whole cutting pad on it. The whole thing about this is that whatever cutting pad you happen to have, you just don't put the cutting pad over that bottom edge. So if you have extra paper, it's going to cut all of this, but it won't cut it off. So then you just go in with your scissors and you can kind of snip and you can create just with your scissors whatever shape you want of that mountain. And then I love that she also then took that solid piece, placed the trick or treat die, cut it again. So that's cut out of that black foundation. And then she just pieced in those little pieces. Isn't that cool? It just, to me, really changed the whole look of how you can utilize that die. Especially, it's all about forced perspective. Thank you, Walt Disney. I love that idea of, even though I see this, I don't know why, but I see this house as smaller than these. Slightly, just because it's making my eye think it's like in the distance. It really does. Isn't that weird?
It's so weird.
Yeah, forced perspective.
I see that.
Yeah. It just makes you think that something's just a different scale. But yeah, great idea for the dies. See, sometimes just the simplest things just create the most brilliant ideas. You don't need a lot when it comes to showing like what to do with a die. It's cool. All right, I'll give you those.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we've got our Witchcraft. So fun. Let me find her. Again, not a lot, just simple, because we've got this, and then those stars are just like the weird little cluster die. So here, Jenn created this card, Jenn Shirkus. I love, again, like the whole mixed media thing. This is always fun about dies, and I think that the makers do such a great job of highlighting that, you know, when you have dies are just a shape. And I say just a shape because that's it. They're just a shape. It's you as the maker that gives them personality or brings them to life. And that could be using alcohol ink, using patterned paper, using distress, using sprays, using whatever it is that you want to use. But, you know, Vicky can turn something into metal. Zoe can create like a moonlit vibe because of the story that goes around it. So here, Jenn used alcohol ink, and like, just look at that purple wispy yum all over that silhouette. And then she used the stars. So that's also from the die, just cut out of metallic cardstock. But then the back is inked and stamped. That's one of the stencils, the mini background. And then she used black texture paste just to create that. So I just think it's really cool. And then just using a little ideology sticker, double, toil and trouble. It's just beautiful. So I love the idea of incorporating stamps, stencils, dies, inks, stickers. Beautiful. Or a stamp. I think that might actually, I don't know if that's a stamp or a stencil. I don't know. I never know, because I like to use the same fonts for different products. So great card, Jenn. Pete created this tag. Again, simple, to the point, but cool, because I love how he just did that black cardstock, but kind of gave it a little model look with a little oxide. Just kind of give it some little splashy, splattery look. The inking, of course, is fabulous because you just glow from the blend, and then you've got the spider webs. But here he took the die and cut it out of the background. So that's like the negative, the aperture, if you will, the cutout of the stars, and Jenn used the positive. So you can use the positive or the negative. Again, I'll grab that die too, just to show you. It's kind of cool that I have them all, because this die, the stars, they're actually put together. And because dies are always made different. You know, sometimes we'll do dies with like individual stars where you as the maker place them, you know, or you're going to cut out positives. This one was more of a background where you place it down and you can cut it, and you place it down again and you can cut it, but you don't have to worry about spreading them out. So you get that kind of random starry effect. But you can also just place them down on metallic and you can poke them out. You know, the trade-off of this is meant for more of a background, because if you're using it on regular cardstock, yeah, you are kind of wasting a little bit of space, but it's a trade-off. That's why there's always options of, you know, some things are individual dies and some things are put together. All right. Then we have, I just created a quick fun card because she's one of my favorites. I think she's pretty fab. So I created a background just using the crackle. I'll kind of talk about this background, but I wanted the crackle just to go, instead of everything vertical, which we've seen on the makes, which has been great. I just wanted horizontal, just to remind you that it does make really cool planks or a vivid line. There's that moon. And then just for the witch, I just did a silhouette of her, and then I added some tulle. There you go. Can you see her trashy little dress? I love that. And I don't mean trashy. I mean like distressed trashy. There we go. But yeah, it is fun just to do that. And it's a simple way that you can add dimension to something, because it is a flat shape. But if you were going to use it in a wreath or whatever, it's just simple tulle. It's that stuff that you can find at the craft store. You just take a needle and thread, gather it up. Okay. And if that was the dress, however much you need, the trick to just making it weird is just always rip the tulle. If you rip it, it just creates a very cool charred look. So that's all I did on that one. But a lot of fun, because then it could be any color. You know, I just did black on black, but you could, you know, purple, green, whatever. It's all about ideas. Just remember that, about ideas. Speaking of ideas, I love this make that Louisa did. It's really funky and cool, as her style would definitely indicate. This is a vignette tray, but I love how she used the cracked embossing folder to do it with the purple little silvery vibe, and then cut that to go on the outside. So I just love that it just looked like purple crackled wood. But really clever storytelling in here, because this is using the Witchcraft die, but the focus is on this really crazy cat. He's super cool. The background, there you go. I'm going to tip it to the light. The background is the foliage. So it really makes for an interesting background in here because I love all the effects that she did with the ink on that brown paper background. Cut up those spider webs. So again, those spider webs, that was from the vault of last year. You can just cut them out of all different colors. I love that they're all coming in. And then it's just really cool. It's like this experiment. I'm sure there's a story because there's always a story to it. But I love the cat. They're on little nails. See, little tack nails. Number 1, 2. And then over here, number 13, this cat is just, it's got his freak on. I love that it's got the sparkle. It's got even some wings, right? From the insects. I just think that's so cool. From all the funky insects and flowers. It's wild. It's just a cool Halloween make, right? Especially if you love the idea of cats and just the colors. Just to me, like I looked at them like, that's just cool. That's just a cool idea for a die. Something I never would have thought of. Brilliant. Then we have, this is an etc. that Emma did. I love this witch. So this, of course, is just a background of using the cracked folder. I love the coloring there. There's that web that shows up again. It's the same web that Louisa used all cut up. It's just a really good die from Vault. The little spiders. But here Emma cut her out of sparkle. I think this is probably ideology. This could be like deco sheet maybe on cardstock because it really has a fine, fine sparkle to it. There you go. Can you see that? I just love that. And then we've got the broom, the cat. She even has one of the little mice from the vault. And then a ledge. So again, this is the etc. tag. There's also, this is etc. trims. Stampers Anonymous does with the cool like cutout spider. Oh, I just noticed there's a word in there. The light just hit it just right. So I love how she used wicked in there. Fab. And then that's just the etc. trim. So I just, again, using some components to tell a story. Great for decor because this could sit on a mantle, put it on an easel, hang it on the wall, put it in a wreath. Gosh, we need to move some stuff here. Let's get this fluffy mess out of here. Put that. There we go. We got that. We got one more. Love this. Zoe Hillman created this. Love the whole story of the witches. And this is what I was saying, that there were a lot of dies used in here. So this is a larger etc. tag. This is the ideology backdrop of the lace, but this is where Witchcraft and some of the vault dies just have such sweetness in this story. So I love how Zoe did like this grungy witch. And again, there's that little, I love that, where the moon is just casting that little highlight onto the witch. But just the inking, can you see how it is? Just really cool. Then there's that moon in the window. Oh, I see the window. Look at that. The window is done with the cracked. Can you see that embossing folder? I love that. I missed that detail. That's cool. There's all the little skulls. That's from last year's vault with the coffin box. There's that skull. I love how she just stacked a whole bunch of them. Kind of ideology-esque. I love the little candle with the raven. There's a little potion bottles. Those are from the Hocus Pocus set. Those little bottles from the witch. But I love how, look, she did little shelves. Brilliant. Just cutting those little, those might be little etc. pieces. Love that. And then you see that? I'm just going to get the light to hit it. You see the hat? So here she just like cut the hat of the witch and then just put the hat on the shelf with a little band. Brilliant. Oh, and the brooms. See? Gosh, it's like the more you turn it, the more you see it. So here just cut a couple of brooms and just stack there like little backup brooms. Very cool. Cool storytelling. Little moss. There's the cracked again. Just use, see, it creates such a, what I like about this folder a lot, not to say you don't want to use crackle paste because that crackle paste from Ranger has a purpose for sure. But I really love the idea of just putting that background over things because it really does give it the effect or illusion of crackle paste. It's super fast though, because you just put that on there. And then there's Wicked, also from the vault, just using that word. What a classic piece. So amazing, huh? All that imagination from a die set. That to me that's where I do believe that designs are timeless. It just has to do with inspiration. And sometimes, really in our creative world, out of sight is out of mind. That's what it is. You don't see something, you forget you even have it or bought it, or maybe you didn't get around to making when you did buy it, or maybe what you saw just didn't really inspire you like it used to, because our tastes change. And I think having the opportunity to bring stuff back is really great. So a shout out again to Sizzix for allowing these classics to come back. And thanks to all the makers for sharing your inspiration on these makes. Just like, wow, because you definitely breathe new life into what these designs can actually do, what their potential is. All right, so talk amongst yourselves for a bit. I'm just going to set up for a demo. I need to put some paper down because I'm going to get a little inky, and we're just going to create a little bit of a mess. Thanks, Mario. Mario made me a special giant sheet of paper in here because my background, this is a great background from Poppy Bee. Absolutely love it. It's not necessarily ink stable, so there you go. And the color will change, so thanks.
Welcome.
There we go. Bring this in. Okay, there we go. Our color white balanced perfect. Okay, how'd we do? Not bad. Pretty good? Good deal. I'm crooked. Well, my brain is crooked, so there we have it.
You're not wonky now.
Okay, okay. I think we're good. So we're just going to talk about stuff because I do think it's important just to play. So sometimes when it comes to playing, it is important to remember that when you're working with stuff, just give yourself permission to play sometimes, especially if you're running into a bit of a creative block. Because when you play with stuff first, I think it kind of leads you down the path of potentially making. Okay? And I say potentially making because sometimes, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and there's days I don't feel like making. And Mario's like, what are you working on? I'm like, nothing. He goes, oh, you're awfully busy for doing nothing. I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. And he knows that just means like something's going to cook.
Something is in the works.
Just don't know if it's going to turn out or if it's going to burn. But either way, something's in the works. So, well, you never know. All right. I got to just move.
Ready? You need anything?
No, I got some stuff. No, I've got a machine coming over too. All right. I'm just going to start with random ideas. There is no rhyme or reason to this chaos right now. These are just ideas. So when I saw Sharon's card, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love those leaves that are color. Because honestly, most of the time when I did leaves, I did them in fall colors. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. So I just went in my stash of backgrounds. And I found this from an alcohol ink demo that we did. I think this had plastic wrap, where we inked and we put plastic wrap and pulled it off. And I'm like, I'm just going to cut out some leaves. So I just positioned it where they would fit. But like, I freaking love them. Like, look at these leaves because remember, if you have Yupo, you can die cut Yupo with a thin die, even though this is synthetic paper, this is plastic. But I love this because even though these are flat, and I just love all the colors. First of all, let's just talk about that. I love again, with alcohol inks, they have something to do. And then the plastic wrap kind of gave almost like the veining of the leaf vibe. It's very cool. But you can take a heat tool to Yupo. It is plastic or it's synthetic, but if you heat it up, and you don't have to torch it, but see how it's just going to start to kind of get a little soft because it is plastic. But if you were making something with it, I like that I can heat this up and I could give it a shape, even on paper, and just let it cool for a second. And then the paper will keep that shape. So if you are going to make something with it, maybe you're going to do a decor piece or you're going to put it on a vignette and you want to give the leaves some life. That's a cool thing to remember when it comes to working with Yupo, is that you can actually curve stuff and it'll remember its shape. And then if you don't like it, you heat it and it will flatten out again. I mean, I guess kind of like how shrink plastic was, minus the shrink, but just something to remember with Yupo. So that's pretty cool. Then I was just playing around with just some other things, like when I was recreating the samples for this live, when I was making that leaf swatch, I just took a bunch of different papers. And again, when it comes to inking backgrounds, use whatever papers you like. You can use going into your mixed media cardstock, your watercolor paper, your Kraft, whatever it is that you want to create. But I was just doing some inky backgrounds because obviously the oxide minis were fun to play with and spritz. But as I was cutting these leaves, I'm like, I actually like the negative, because clearly I was making a background for each of the leaves. But I'm like, heck, that's going to be a cool card front, because I could this may maybe be a shakety shake. Maybe I put a little acetate in there and some shakety beads. I can put it on a background. Imagine this being stamped and inked and whatever. I could sew around this. I can add a sentiment. But sometimes, there's a background where you just sacrifice the whole thing for the sake of your color choices. But others, and I did the same thing here, this one was a little bit more in center, but even the off-center stuff are cool. So maybe keep that in mind if you're die cutting for the season. Maybe you're working on Christmas cards, you're doing snowflakes. I know as makers, we kind of try to get the most out of our real estate, but other times you can actually double your real estate if you just maybe chop up a piece before you die cut it, because then you can keep the positive and negative. So I just wanted to share that. It's not earth-shattering idea. It's certainly nothing new, but it's one of those things that if it reminds you, you're like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. Even when I did the witch, right? So see, I sprayed that, but I think this is going to be, I mean, certainly I don't have the right papers, but just imagine, you know, having a wood grain background to put this on, or sparkle. But there again, that's a 2-for-1. She would make a great shakety shake. Or maybe this is where you add that tulle dress on, just on the negative space. So it was really, I think when I was playing around with this, it was more of like the positive, negative idea, okay, for those. Then we're going to just talk about inking papers, because sometimes with inking papers, especially as we get into Halloween and Christmas, look, I'm all about colored cardstock. You know that. I talk about it. I use it. I love it. I'm also pattern paper. I love my ideology backdrops. I love all that. But what I love the most is being able to create my own papers, because I have the stuff. I have all the inks and I have all the fun goodness of it. And I just wanted to demo that today, just to hopefully take the fear factor that maybe some people have, or where do I get started, or what color choices do you make? The color choices I make is what's close to my hand. That's what it is. I mean, I certainly pull colors, but I don't have like a recipe or formula for many things, but I'll just give you some ideas. So this one, this is what I use to do the moon, because the moon has cool things, and you can approach this many different ways. Do not think like, oh, I've got to always do this. You can cut the moon out of cardstock and do your inking by hand. I just find that if you create some background papers, it just makes it, because this to me is a day. I would sit for a day, well, give or take the 30 meetings in between the day, but I would sit there and make background papers of all shapes and sizes. I don't necessarily do a half. I do whatever I feel like I want to create, and I work on different papers. Sometimes it's watercolor, sometimes it's mixed media. It's just whatever I want to create with. In this case, clearly I was feeling some Halloween vibes. All right. This one is very simple. It's probably one of my favorite color choices for backgrounds, especially even if I wasn't going to cut it. Just to me, it makes for a very spooky sky. So I'm going to show you that one first. Okay, I'm just going to take a piece of cardstock. This is going to be distressed watercolor cardstock, but like I said, if you wanted to use mixed media or something else, go for it. You do you. Use what you have. Okay. The colors for that. Here's the reality of me. Yes, we have storage tins. Yes, I have spinners. Yes, I do that. But when I'm making for a season, it is way easier on my brain if I pick some ingredients first to work from. Doesn't mean I can't go back to the cabinet or the spinner or whatever. But if I don't kind of pull a bunch of colors, I find myself going back and forth looking for the right thing. And that is overthinking. Thinking is overrated, and all we want to do is play. So in here, I've got mostly spray stains, because I like that for my colorant. I have a couple of oxide sprays, but now that I have minis, I'm using the cubes more, because I like having just a little bit of oxide. And then of course I have a bunch of colors of distress spritz. But for this particular one, the color choices are, well, they're not much. It's antique linen. Once I find them, I find them. It's pumice stone, okay? And it's, where is it? It will be here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. There it is. Old paper, okay? That's it. That is the sludge that makes the sludge, okay? Now, does that mean you have to use these three? No. Use whatever you have, or if you're like, oh, I'm going to try with weathered wood or ice spruce, go for it. But these colors, antique linen is going to give you more of a beigey, subtle cream color. Old paper is going to be more greenish, which I love. And pumice stone is going to be a very dirty gray. So Lost Shadow is a very clean, cool gray. Hickory Smoke is a deeper, cool gray. Pumice Stone's just dirty, and it's just smudgy and sooty and yum. Okay, so what I'm going to do, pull the caps off. We're going to work with water and a heat tool, and that's it. So I'm just going to start by adding a little bit of water, the sprayer, just to the back. I want to use the smooth side. Water, because now when I spray, I'm just going to get that instant blend. Now I'm always keeping a distance, and I'm playing with the sprayer differently. I'm not going there hosing it down. And I'm also not doing every area everywhere. So like if I get a little splatter, I think it's meant to be. So I'm going to just move on, okay? So like that big splatter. Then maybe I'm just going to go into an area. Maybe I want to concentrate some color. Great. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other. This is going to be a little bit of pumice. Now that's going to be the darkest, so I want to kind of show up. Then I look to see like, how are we looking here? I want to have some blank space, but I don't want it to be totally white. So to me, before I dry my first layer, I'm going to go back to that first color, a little old paper, because it's got that greeny vibe, and I'm just going to spray some of that. This is all I'm doing to start. It doesn't seem exciting. I know that. We're going to start drying it. Okay. Now, when we dry this, I'm looking for a couple of things. One, I'm just seeing how the color operates. If I have color like here that has a lot of ink that doesn't seem to be moving, while I'm drying, I'm just going to go in and hit it with a little bit of water just to be like, on your way, on with you, just go. Because my first layer, I'm not necessarily worrying about blobs. Okay, I just want to go for it. So.
Did you talk about the paper? I missed it.
I did. Okay. Yeah, distressed watercolor.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So when I'm drying this, it curls up first. I'm not trying to flatten it out. I'm letting the heat do it. See how the paper is just kind of flattening back out? And once it starts to relax, but before it goes flat, I know that most of the ink is dry. How do I know? Because I touch it and it's not wet, so it's dry. Here, it's shiny, which means it's wet, and it's okay if there's still some wet ink. But if everything was wet, this next step is not going to work as well, okay? So let's talk about glass versus non-glass. I left this here because you can see if I only worked on glass, what happens to my colors that I'm using? They pour off the paper and they become puddles. That's great, but any paper that I put into a puddle is going to be a puddle. It's going to soak in really quick. So I typically don't ink on my glass like this. I wanted to show you because I know a lot of us today work on glass mats, and I do glass when I'm doing just a lot of, simple demos. But when it comes to sprays and something fluid, I don't like to work directly on the glass. So let me just clean this up real quick and show you how I typically work from start to finish. But the visual was important, which is why I wanted you to see it. It is important to see how ink, and I talk about this pretty much all the time when I do inky backgrounds, that working directly on the glass is going to have its limits. It doesn't mean you can't do it. So don't think like, oh, he said don't, it's not going to damage the glass at all. It's just your inks, your fluid inks are not going to behave the same as they do if you have some type of craft sheet. Could be whatever kind of craft sheet you want to have. This is just my tonic media surface mat. Now, if you have the media mat, you have a little sample of that, like a little rectangle of that. That's the same material as this. This one is just a full sheet. You can get these in two different sizes if you have two different sizes of mats. There's a big one that goes on the big mat, and there's a small one that goes on the small mat. The cool thing about this one, it's a silicone back, so it kind of, I'm not going to say sticks, it just grips. You don't want to leave it on here. It's not meant to be stored this way. If you're not using it, peel it off, roll it up, put it in something. I happen to put mine in like one of these View-tainer tubes, but it's not meant to live on there, this big surface. The small one on your black one, yeah, that's meant to live there, but not this one. This has some stitch rubber corners, so it's just weighted, so it just hangs down. So when I place it down, I'm not squeegeeing it out and burnishing. Just stick it down, get ready to go. Here's going to be the difference. We'll go back to those colors, and I'm just going to put some of those colors here. A little antique linen, just the colors that I use, some old paper, and let's do a little pumice. So imagine that we were using it. This would be the ink that's here. Even if the ink is wet, I can just add water. But you see what the ink does? And even if I move it around, do you see how this reacts on this sheet? It becomes droplets. And droplets are the magic of a background. Because when you have droplets, you're able to create way more texture in a background without overworking the color. So any ink that I have here, I don't just jump right in. I might edit it. I might look and say, oh yeah, that's a lot of dark, and I really don't want a lot of dark because I like what I have here. So I might take some of that off, just dabbing it with any kind of cloth. Here, if I see that it's not very fluid and it's kind of small, I might add a little bit more water. The great thing about working on a sheet like this is you can move stuff around with your fingers, you can add and subtract, but you don't have to overthink the ink. So now with this being somewhat dry, remember this is still wet in areas, but for the most part it's dry, I'm just gonna start splashing. I'm not pressing, I'm just gonna like splash it down. And the paper has just different areas. So I'm just splashing in that, and that's what we have to start. Now I'm gonna dry it. I have a pretty simple rule when it comes to backgrounds. If you look, you dry, okay? Because why not? You stopped, you thought it was enough at one point. You thought it was enough to look at it, so that's enough. That's your brain saying, look, that's enough. You splashed around, so just dry it. We can always go back. But see the interesting thing I'm getting? I got some little drops here. I've got some bigger drips here. I got some cool pooling here. So once I get into my second layer, now I'm gonna go back to my water because distress is reactive with water, whether it's wet or dry. So even though this is dry, I'm now slowly squeezing to get these drops of water. I'm not misting, I'm just getting that little dribble from the distress sprayer. And I'm doing that all over. Here's what's happening. Where there's a lot of water, it's gonna start creating those little drags, the kind of fluidness of the color. So if you want that color to drag, see, pull, add a lot of water. If you want just some kind of splotchy bits, keep it in droplets. But we're gonna dry it. It's all about drying and going back in and going back in. If you keep everything wet, everything will blend together. Okay, so wet on wet blends. If you keep going in wet and wet, all that color will become one color. If you dry it in between, then you're gonna get layers. So see already how this has kind of created some lighter areas because that's where I was demonstrating like hosing a lot of water. It's very cool because you get so much more control by letting go of control. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense in my brain. Meaning when you don't try to overanalyze everything and overthink it, you just can actually control some of that cool grunge. All right, I'm gonna dry it. And again, I'm drying it until I see that paper not totally go flat, but just certainly not stay as curved as it was. This is also really critical, having a heat tool versus an embossing gun, because I'm that far away, about an inch. And it won't burn my paper and it won't blow the ink either. It kind of keeps it in there. So here we go. Now I'm gonna say, oh yeah, now I want some other ones. I know there's some dark over here. So I'm gonna just kind of tap in there. Go here, a little old paper here. There we go. All right, now we're gonna dry it again. Look at that. So each time we do it, it completely changes personality. You don't always have to add water at all. You don't need to. Water is just going to be when you want to create a movement like this little drip of your backgrounds. Or if you want to splatter the water, that's what's going to create kind of those bleachy spots. But once you're happy with it, step away from the background. It's just a background. It's not this focal point. So sometimes people will spend an hour on a background that is completely insignificant. Because then it's so beautiful, you don't want to cut it, you don't want to stamp on it, you don't want to use it because you might ruin it. Well, if you just don't overthink it, you've got this really cool background effect. Paper has no memory, so even though it's curling it, uncurl it. What do we do with this ink? Well, we can let it dry all the way, or you can just go in. I'm just gonna wipe that off with a cloth. Edit, just dab it with a cloth. If you dab it with a cloth, it doesn't pull the color away like a paper towel. See, remember that's green, it's still green. If I would have used a paper towel instead of a cotton towel, it would have pulled all the color and we would have had a lighter spot. No right or wrong, just what you want to get. So there we go. That's our first part of the background. But then I wanted it to be a little bit more moony, a little bit more. And this one is just more water. So let's say we wanted that. Let's say you're like, oh gosh, you know what? This kind of looks like moss on a rock. It's just not my jam. I want more of this. Okay, well, do it. Just because it's dry doesn't mean you're done. We're just going to go in with some water now, and we're going to do that. We're going to add maybe a little bit of that color, because we can always go back to that. Put that there. And just, this to me is where your dyes and your embossing folders just become the star of the show, because you've given them very unique backgrounds to highlight. And we'll emboss this one. Don't think we're going to work on it and not use it. So see how by spraying that, I'm getting more of that like drippy part on this side. Even down here, I can do that. All right. I don't have to touch this side because I like it. But see how the side that's wet is curling up? Don't freak your freak. Just heat it up. Now, do you have to dry with a heat tool? No. If you were working on multiple ones, could you set these aside and come back to it? Yes. If you set it aside, chances are it's going to be a little bit more curly than if you dry it with a heat tool, but still, you're going to be fine. All right, we're gonna do one other thing and then we're gonna emboss it. It's very, very cool. Absolutely right, Scrapbook Central. Random, but intentional. Because if you know the choices to make, you get to control so much more of the detail of this. Like this one's gonna look so good, crackled. Oh man, it's gonna be awesome because it's just so grungy. And I love how it changes. And things also don't have to be like crispy dry. If, like I said, if you touch it and it's not wet, it's dry. Even though you might feel some moisture in there, you don't have to cook everything. Okay, to get us this wonderful little moon dust sparkle that you see, that is Distress Spritz. So Distress Spritz, let me find the color I used, or did I pull it out already? I did not. I used Antique Linen. You could use whatever color you want, but remember Distress Spritz is a mica that coordinates with Distress, but it has no colorant to it, no ink. So this is just this color mica in a clear liquid. So what's great is that I can put this on and all it's going to apply is this color of mica, not any ink. So it's not gonna change my background. Now you have some ways to apply it. The whole thing to remember about spritz, and I've tried to remind people, and I'm not saying how to use your product, I'm just saying how the product was intended, you do you. But spritz was really meant to only spritz. It was never meant to spray. And I know a lot of people love to spray things and that's great. But if you get out your spritz and you just keep your distance, but you just start doing little spritz, like little half blast spritz, like the name, spritz. You're gonna transform your backgrounds in a way that's very unique. Because see, just that little spritz, you create more droplets versus if you sprayed it, the whole thing would be shimmery. And then we lose this effect of like seeing the light hit it in different ways. Now for these bigger splotches, simple. We're just gonna shake it up. We're gonna take this off and we're gonna use the little tube from the schnozzle and we're gonna tap it just like you would a splatter brush. So just dip it in the liquid, get close and just give it those big drips. So see how it, because it comes off like every bit of the tube, but that's how we end up with the big drips without spraying so much of it. Now we're gonna dry it because you won't really see the spritz until it dries. And this could have been any color. This could be multiple colors, right? When you see what we do with leaves, you're gonna like, whoa, crazy. Spritz, yeah. And I know, I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's just a different name. Well, I have sprays. I have spray stain, I have oxide spray. This one is a product that it just looks better if you spritz it because it's a great accent. Okay, there we go. Now, even on here, see when I have those big drips, I just go in and I'm just gonna edit because I don't need to dry that giant mountain of spritz, but this is done. It's dry to the touch. It's not gonna go anywhere. But look at how, see? Like the background is still the background, but then when the light hits it, boom, moon dust magic. Okay, well this is not gonna be a moon. This one tells me it wants to be cracked. So we're gonna use the folder cracked, okay? So for this one, I'm gonna get out you can use whatever machine you want. I love my Switch Plus for this. I know we're super zoomed in. This is not a how to use the Switch Plus demo, but there are videos that I've done on it. So if you're not familiar with this machine, definitely check it out. It's a big machine, but it's motorized and it can take these folders like a champ. All right, gotta plug it in. There we go. I just keep mine, oh, I guess it's gonna go this way. That's how it wants to be. All right, I'm gonna turn it on, got my little power. The reason I like this one is because it is big. It makes it easier for these A5 embossing folders, but you don't have to have that big of a machine. Okay, thanks Mario. How about I'll just give you that one, thanks. Okay, so I'm just gonna need the platform and one cutting pad. That's all I'm gonna need for this. So,
What do you need?
Space.
Space?
Yeah.
Here, hand me
No, you're fine. He can tell because I turn around, I'm like, I need another table here because I want to talk about what we're going to do. So this is the folder. Okay, this is the cracked folder. We can use it as is, but I already know that this design is going to look really cool on like solid cardstock. But if we have something that is busy, and I think a colorful background is busy, there's a great thing that we can do with these folders, and we're going to talk about that with the leaf folder coming up. But here's what I'm going to do, because this is the background that I want to emboss. I'm going to ink this. Now your folder is going to have a side where the design is raised and the other side where the design is recessed, which technically they both have raised and recessed sides. You just have to decide what you want to show up, okay? I want all of these little lines and cracks to go into my paper and be visible. And I want the high part of my design to be the color. So I'm gonna ink the side that's got the smallest amount of detail. The ink I'm going to use is, whoa, hey, archival. This is what I was saying. Having this machine here is a hot mess for me right now. I'm just gonna move it out of my way because I can. It's right here. Perfect. There we go. Okay. I'm using archival because archival's oil-based. Now you can use big inks, you can use small inks. If you don't have archival, use what you have. Can you try it with distress ink? Go for it. Can you try it with oxide? Go for it. Can you try it with VersaFine? Go for it. The only thing that I can tell you is that I've tried all of those inks and I find that archival ink works the best for this technique because it is oil-based, which means it will go onto the plastic easier. It will bond to the plastic so it transfers better. And it's also going to be permanent. So if I want to do something after I add this color, it's not going to run this ink. So that's really why. You can use mini inks, but if you happen to have the distress stack, there's different colors. I'm going to use black for this because I think I just want to go with that contrast. You're going to take the pad itself and we're going to apply it directly to this plastic. But when I apply it, I want to follow the design. I don't want to grind it in because I only want to hit the high points, okay? Now, when you're following a design, the nice thing about having a felt pad is it's just going to allow it just to apply the amount of ink based on your pressure. But don't worry if you don't get everything perfect. Just do what you think. Don't over ink this is my point. Okay. We typically need to spray these or mist these when we are embossing. But because this is still damp, I don't need to do much of it. Maybe I'll just do a little bit on the back side, but I don't need to spray water over my ink because I don't want my ink to do anything else other than what it's done. I'm going to place it in here. This was just a piece of paper, so it's not even as big as the folder, which is all right. I'm going to take this. I'm going to close the folder. There we go. Got it. I'm going to put it on my platform. The nice thing about the switch is I can put this in at an angle. If you only have a regular machine with a 6-inch opening, these will still fit a regular machine, a Vagabond, a Big Shot, a Foldaway, whatever. It's just going to be a little harder to pull through because you're going over that speed bump. So if you have the space and you have this machine, go in at an angle. It's just going to be a little bit better. All right. So next I'm just going to take this, bring back my switch. It is on. I have it open. Make sure I don't have anything coming out of the back. There we go. I'm just going to put this in. It's going to take this, okay, and I'll bring this in while it's doing it. It's going to come out of the back, and you're going to hear like a thunk, meaning it's after it hit the end of the folder. And just wait for it. You hear that? As soon as it did that, I pressed this little switch to switch directions. It gave me a quick double emboss just like that, okay? There you go. So do you have to switch it? No. Could you take it out and run it in again? Yes. Could you run it one time? Yes. You do you. I just like to do that. Thanks, Mario. Because that to me just works the best. Then what we have is we have a background that has been embossed, but my color is now pushed in. So all that black ink has been debossed in there, and it just shows the cracks so differently. Like, isn't that just ridiculous and fabulous? My word. So we still have all of that. And this, I mean, it's a piece of white paper. So even this side is actually cool, but like, it's just that simple. Awesome. It's just that simple to make paper. That's what I'm saying. If you give yourself permission to just sit and play, and what do you do with this? You throw it in the pile if you're playing that day, because then you have really great backgrounds. Because I was playing one day. That's how I got the background from my witch card, because I was playing with different colors, doing the same exact thing. And I was like, ooh, this looks really kind of wicked. And you could see, like, I mean, I was trying to break it into planks and cracking it. And I was like, ooh, that kind of looks like lightning. I didn't care. But then what I really liked is when I turned this sideways, I'm like, ooh, I actually like these cracks going horizontal for this card instead of vertical. So that witch background, I actually have two backgrounds. And who knows, this might get cut and just be used as one piece of a card. So this one is shiny. This one is matte. Well, how do we make it shiny? Shiny is very easy. You don't have to make it shiny, but if you like that it's shiny and looks a little bit more, I don't know, like old enamel-y paint, I'll show you how to do that. But before, let me answer the ever popular question whenever I ink something that you shouldn't, how do I clean it? You would clean the ink off of this folder with the same cleaner you would clean ink off of a stamp. So in this case, archival cleaner, any kind of stamp cleaner. The easiest way I think to do it is to dab this on. I'll clean these after live, but I dab it on. I usually spray some water, and I'll take a paper towel and I emboss the paper towel. Then I'll spray it with water again, put another paper towel in and emboss that. And as long as I don't see any ink transfer on the paper towel, it's clean. That's really all I do, and it makes it really, really simple.
It's so easy that way.
If you scrub with your archival cleaner, which I've been known to do, the felt top is just gone. And it doesn't matter because that little plunger is what creates that lick. So that's cool. I agree. There's always a need for matte and shiny. So I'm going to shine that one up though, because I think it's going to be fun. All right, let me put this over here. It's perfect there. Okay. Do you have to shine it? No, I like this, but there's something about like when you add that shine, it's even going to make these colors come to life. And we'll do that because I'm not going to do it on the next one. So this will be my only time to use it. I'm going to use resist spray. So resist spray, you're going to want a splat box. If you don't have a splat box, have something, but don't use your craft sheet or your glass mat for resist spray, because whatever it touches, it will bond to, including glass and metal and iPad screens and remote controls and all of those things. So resist spray is a clear liquid that dries with a shine and a dimension. It's used for resist, meaning if you spray it through a stencil, you can resist. You can learn more about it, but I also like to use it just as like a shiny, glossy coat, okay? So I'm just gonna take it, I'm just gonna start spraying it in the back just to make sure I got my sprayer going, because I clean mine with water. And then I'm just gonna spray it. And it doesn't matter if it comes out misty, blotchy, it's all gonna be shiny. Now, the thing about this spray, when you're done using it, you wanna remove the whole entire nozzle, bring it into a sink or in a bowl of water and spray water through the sprayer until it's flushed out. Leave water around the nozzle and put the cap on. So you kind of keep moisture in there, and that'll keep it from clogging. I've cleaned this bottle that same way ever since, and look, I only have this much left and it's never clogged on me. But back in the day, I was clogging resist spray every time I used it because I didn't want to take it out, spray it out like I just do. So when I know I'm done with it, just so you know that you're not wasting stuff, you just take it out and you can actually like spray the rest of it on your project without it picking up more. I don't really care about that. It makes more of a mess than not. So I'm going to set that aside. I'll clean it after live. This we're going to let dry. So can you see how it's kind of like milky a little bit? That's what it looks like when it goes on, but it's going to dry totally clear. So I'm going to hand this to Mario. Would you mind putting that out in the garage? Because the garage is like 110. It'll be dry in no time. Thanks, Mario. We'll move on to the next one. Easy enough? Cool. We'll see what that resist looks like when we're done, I promise. Okay, so let's go and talk about other backgrounds and really how backgrounds can be super playful, super fun, super colorful. This is one of my favorites. This is using that new 3D Foliage. I love this folder, and as I mentioned, you can use it either way, and it's just beautiful. These were both white cardstock. I'll show you how to do this background. It's very similar to the last one, but a little bit more intentional, but it creates just stunning backgrounds with color, and this folder is just magic. So the beauty of this is that you can use the folder to actually deboss the veins, as I mentioned, or you can use it the other way, because see, this is really just the reverse of this. It's weird, see, like that's the same way. This is just flipping this side over because I wanted to make two samples to show you. Because this is inked in deboss like we did with the cracked. This one is just taking the ink pad and rubbing over this after we emboss it to hit the high points. So this is inking the folder. This one's inking the paper. Let's play around. Really simple. Okay. So for this, we're just going to go in with more colors than sludge. You know, our last one was kind of sludge, but I absolutely loved it. So let's just pick some colors. They could be, like we could do some reds, orange, there's a little yellow. Let's see, what's this orange? Oh, crackling, that'll be good. I could use rusty hinge. There's really no right or wrong. Oh, I do love fossilized amber. I'll probably keep both. And then one of my favorites for doing, and I don't know why that is, something really weird. I always love doing weathered wood on leaves. I don't know why. It could be ice spruce probably, but there's some green. What is that? That's crushed olive, and let's do Let's do some peeled paint. And let's take some oxide. Okay, it could be cracked pistachio, maybe if you want a little purple shaded lilac. A lot of stuff, right? Don't worry about it. A lot of stuff. And the last color I'm going to take, oh my gosh, you would think, okay, we're going to do a little scorched timber. This we're going to save to the end, so I'm going to move that off to the side. All right, so same rules apply, but now I'm just going to have all my colors. I have the caps off. Just have them at your ready, just so we can use them the way we want to use them. Like, don't just get one at a time. Get everything ready, because the more freeing you are with your process on this, I think the more organic it's going to look, and it's going to show these leaves really beautiful. So same thing, we're just going to start with a little bit of water on the back of watercolor paper. Again, you could use mixed media or anything else you like with ink, but watercolor paper is designed for water and color, which is exactly what I'm doing. And I've just misted it so it has some droplets. I didn't hose this down at all. If you don't, then your color doesn't flow on contact. Now, I don't have a plan. I don't work dark to light, light to dark. I have no rhyme or reason. I'm just going to start. Ooh, there's a little aged mahogany. Then let's go in with maybe a little bit of barn door, just so I can have a couple reds. Then what's this? So I said, like, whatever's there, it's a little fossilized amber. Let's put some yellow there. Now we'll do some orange, maybe a little bit there. You don't really have to overthink the ink. I definitely want some weathered wood, and I need that to kind of show up on some of the white areas. There we go. Come on. I love this color, so I use a lot. So sometimes you kind of get what you get and you don't throw a fit. There's some crushed olive. Now, crushed olive is more yellow, so that's why I like to take that and use another green. So this is going to be some peeled paint. There we go. So that's a start. Don't have to think about it. Over here, I got something, but maybe I want to highlight that a little bit more. So I'm going to do a little crackling campfire, because that's just a nice reddish orange. Okay, it's a great start. So just like what we did before, we're going to dry it. But see all my ink this time, unlike the last time, because I used a Kraft sheet, it's already drips. It didn't turn into a puddle of mess that I can't use. Now I can use that. I don't have to spray more. So as I dry this, here's a couple of things that I like about using sprays. I want the speckly look, which is why I didn't hose anything down. And it's also why I haven't flooded it with water right now. If you didn't like the flecks, like how we did the cracked, add water and that will smooth out all of your ink. But I think there's something about those little bits in there that make it pretty darn cool. All right, so far so good. So you can move this around. You can pick up your paper as you're drying it. Okay, so once, again, majority of it's dry, not totally, it's fine. Now is playtime. So the mist that's outside, that was the overspray, is actually usable, but you need to get it more ready to go. So just adding water, watch how this changes from a fine mist to visible color. See that? Because it's water reactive, it actually becomes more intense. So I just add some water so I have bigger droplets to work from. Otherwise it's a little too airbrushy for me, okay? Then I'm just going to take my background and be mindful of where you go, right? So if you want red, but if you put red on green, it's gonna make brown. Right? So you kind of know, you can see it from the water as well. This is more red and orange over here. This is kind of more greenish blue. So I'm going to put like the red stuff kind of in the red a little bit. I'm going to put the green maybe over here in the dark green. I'll put some of this dark over in this dark. And there's not much, just a couple of little splashes, but we're going to dry it. Easy enough. And it doesn't really take much. I think backgrounds are more a frame of mind than a difficult level. They're not difficult, but you have to be in the frame of mind to just play. Because if you're not in that frame of mind, because you need something to look a certain way and be a certain color and have a certain blend, because you're making this card, you're stressed out the whole time and you don't just let whatever's going to happen, okay? So now that I have some splatters on there, I want to break up some of this solid. So here I'm just going to go in with some water. Again, I'm just slowly squeezing it just to get some splatteries on there. See, there's not a lot of water. You can see it's droplets. I'm going to dry this again. Now, if I wasn't on camera, okay, I would be moving this paper over to this side of the mat. I wouldn't work in my own mess. That's crazy. So typically when I'm working not on a camera, I would spray like on, say, the left side of my sheet, and I would use the right side to be drying and adding water. So then I can always go back. So I'm not trying to work around, because it does get a little messy when you work in that sludge. So just know, this is all because of the camera. why I'm staying in the same puddle, okay? So look what's happening with that water. See how that water just kind of broke up the solids a little bit? And if I want to lighten it, I can lighten it. Let me just moving it over here just a dab. See, I can dab off that water. I'll try to do it in the air. But that just is what breaks up any of the solid stuff. So don't be afraid to edit as well. Now we're going to go back in and we're just going to add some other little drips. So let's add some tiny little ones over here. Let's add some tiny little ones over here. Let's go in here. And you can see, I'm just kind of tapping and playing. And that's the background we're getting. Okay, I'm good with this. So I already know I don't need this anymore. You might want to keep going, but I'm good with this. So now I'm going to dry this. While this is drying, I'm going to go a little bit more with some water because I still want to lighten up some of those areas. All right, water's going to do that, especially like down there. See, I can add more water. Let's just see what we get. Just don't, you have to really give yourself the confidence because you got this. You can do it. You just, if you struggle with, whenever I read someone going, oh, I struggle with backgrounds, it's because you haven't given yourself permission to do backgrounds. That's the reality. You might have attempted it, but you're attempting it with caution. You're attempting it with second guessing and doubting instead of like, I got this. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And editing is also a key to a background because by taking a soft cloth, I'll show you what it's doing. You see those really dark ink spots, but see how they're light in the middle instead of total, oh look, it's a leaf. Instead of it being totally dark, the totally dark ones dried. But this one, where I blotted it off, it created a lighter center. So, beautiful. See, even the camera's like, whoa, that's amazing color. Beautiful. Okay, so if we want to create more, I would say age spots, that's where you're going to go in with scorched timber. But this one you want to be really careful because scorched timber can destroy a background because it's really dark. I already actually have age spots, so I wouldn't, on this background I wouldn't do it, but I'm going to show you because I talked about it on camera. I actually think this one, I want to lighten this a little bit more. So let me show you because aged mahogany is a beast. I love it though. I'm going to just go in with some water right now. You'll see what's going to happen. I'm just going to spray this. And then I'm going to take something porous. So in this case, it's going to be a paper towel versus my cotton towel. And now I'm just going to start lifting. See how much ink comes off? This could be another piece of paper if you were planning, could be another tag, but it's very easy to remove some color if you take water and something porous. It will literally suck the color off. And that just lightens it a little bit. See how we have just more depth and it's going to lighten a little bit as it dries. So I need to dry it again before we do the scorched. But see, I don't know. I wanted it to be a little lighter than it was. You just never have to be worried, honestly. And like, see that little serendipitous red? Oh man, that's where it's like so good. But we all overthink. So don't get on yourself for overthinking. I think we all overthink the ink. I used to overthink all the time. And then I just found that some of my best work was just done in a demo when I had no time to think or plan or pick colors. Like, when you demo live, you just have to, you get what you get. But then I kind of learned that really became so much, uh-oh, my little air turned on. That just became, I think, a whole different way of thinking for me also, that it was okay. All right, so now I'm gonna go with scorch. So scorch, I'm not spraying this at all. I use scorched timber as a spray, but not on this background. This one's only the schnozzle. Because you're gonna see, it's almost like a India ink. It goes on so dark, but it's so good. And I'm tapping because I want little light speckly fleckly. So I'm on the one little dip and I just keep tapping. But you'll see, because when you look at leaves, they have that great little age spot. Like scorched timber is good. Could you use black for that? Yes, but black is black. It's gonna look really dark. But if that's what you have, then that's what you should use. So we're just gonna dry this full strength as is. But you could have used a splatter brush. You could splatter things, but scorched timber is just, well, it was the final color in distress for a reason because it was just that color that I always wanted, but I knew people needed to kind of be ready for it because it's a great dark color, especially if you're inking the edges of ephemera or paper. It just has such a great charred look. Now that one, that's a bit big, so I'm not going to wait for it to dry. I'll just edit the rest. That's another kind of talking out loud, that's what I do. If most of them's dry, but a couple little things, those are the ones I'm going to edit. So there's our background. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. Now, because I want to make this really shiny and pretty, because you might look at this and go, oh, you use resist spray on these. No, I didn't. These are not resist spray. What makes this really pretty and shiny is distress spritz. And that, I think, is what's going to make the colors like so, it just comes to life. So cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to find coordinating colors of distress spritz based on what our ink colors are. Okay. So it doesn't have to be exact, like there's no, aged mahogany or anything like that, but it could be. So what I do on spritz, because this is all about just you guys learning what I look for, I don't pay attention to the labels when I'm choosing colors. I look at the bottom because the pearl is what's gonna talk to me. So like lumberjack plaid, that's gonna be a great red pearl. A warmer red, well, that's gonna be barn door. See how the pearl's a different color? All right, so I've got that. Orange, I definitely love crackling campfire, but you could use marmalade or whatever you want. Our greens, peeled paint, but that's the same color of ink. Crushed olive, same color of ink. Fossilized amber, same color of ink. Weathered wood, same color. There's not so much weathered wood in this particular background. And then if you want a brown, you could do frayed or you can do walnut stain. I think I'll probably do a little walnut stain for that. So now that I've chosen my spritz colors, and remember, this is just a coordinating mica, we're just gonna shake them up, okay? So just shake them all. Just mix them. As long as you don't have sludge at the bottom, you're good. If you store them on their sides, they mix so much faster, but I only store them on the side when I'm getting ready to use them. In my studio, they stay upright. I don't like to store sprays on their sides over time. Okay, so next, I'm gonna pick up each color and just give it one quick shake just to make sure there's no sludge at the bottom, because if there is, it'll clog. And then we're gonna try to go over the same area. So lumberjack is a deeper red, I'm gonna go over just this area. And remember, spritz is spritz. So little spritz, maybe I'll throw a little bit over there. I'm done. That's it. And you're like, oh, but I didn't even get a full spray out of it. Yep, we don't want that. We're just gonna spritz. And now this one, I'm just gonna go in that area. Maybe I want a little bit more of that red down there. You don't have to stick within the real estate, but the point is, don't just spray everything everywhere. Here's a little crackling. I'm gonna go in the orange zone. Ooh, that's nice. And I'll go probably where that little bit of yellow and red mixed. Now, when I'm done with my spritz, I do like to wipe off the little schnozzles with baby wipe or just something damp like a damp paper towel. Ooh, that's good. That was a good one. That was a little fossilized. What do we got here? That's brown. I'm gonna save that for the end. Some green. We got a little peeled paint. A little peeled paint down there. A little bit over there. Because peeled paint and crushed olive are totally different colors of green. And the thing about this also is you don't really appreciate what you're doing yet because spritz doesn't reveal itself until it dries. And we got walnut stain and weathered wood left. So I'm gonna do walnut stain. I'm gonna just do a little bit because, it's brown, but it's a brown pearl and it's very cool. So I like that. But my favorite is gonna be weathered wood because it's gonna be silvery, but a silvery blue. So that's, I think, what gives it a whole little surprise. And for this one, I'm just gonna start by just giving it, so I'm kind of keeping my distance. I know it's like it's falling from the sky, but we're just going in. But this is also one that I want to create bigger drops. So we have the technology. You're just gonna use that schnozzle and create bigger drips. There we go, I like that big one. Okay, now we're done. Now let's dry it. And you'll see how this background transforms. It's so pretty. All those colors will start to appear. And I'll hold it close to the camera so you can see that, because you might be like, well, gosh, why didn't I just do this? Why didn't I just do this? Well, you could do really whatever you want. You do you. But this is why I did it, because I love that little bit of spritz color. Now, if we want something that's a little bit more creamy dreamy, I'll show you after we do this, we can add a little bit of oxide. You don't have to, but I will. Okay, so see, there's a spot that's not drying. So what do? You edit, done. This way everything's at the same time. So here's our background, and then here's our background spritzed. See the difference? See how like all those little colors, the red, the blue, the yellow, the green, that ink just takes on, and it's totally dry. It just takes on a whole different life, I think, because when you look at it, it's not shiny. But when the light hits it, it just comes to life. That to me is the magic of spritz. It's like, I absolutely love it. I really do. And using it as a spritz is what's going to give you that surprise magic. All right. So let's just do a little bit of oxide. So I'm going to use cracked pistachio because I think I want like you could use salvage patina, cracked pistachio, whatever. It's just an oxide spray. You could use your ink pad for this if you wanted to as well. I'm going to spray this with water because I want it to oxidize, and oxide oxidizes only when it's wet. I'm going to move it around so I can get droplets. I'm going to edit some so I don't have a ton. I know it seems kind of strange, but now I'm just going to go in and just splash a little bit just to get some, see that little green right there? Just see where it is. If you don't have enough water to, ooh, that was a good one. You can always add a little bit more. This is kind of a one and done thing. So once you do it, because oxide is a pigment and a dye. Pigment dominates dye. So if you do too much oxide, bye-bye background. It's just going to be, and it doesn't have to be cracked pistachio. It could be whatever favorite color you want. But this is going to give the background now a whole different look because even oxide will cover up some spritz. So it's nice because this kind of breaks up some of that sparkly layer as well. So it doesn't look like everything just got, you know, blasted with pixie dust. But this is just my process. You have your own process and you do what works for your creative brain. It's not like, you know, what order do you need to do? I think the point is having fun with it. All right. There we go. Look at that piece of paper. See, look at the oxide. See how it just oxidized this, like splattering with paint? All right, let's put it in that leaf folder. Let's leaf it up. It's going to be good. I'm just going to take my sprays, do what I do in a demo, which is chuck it in the bucket. I don't even have my caps there. So
We'll get them.
all right. So let's see. Do we like the high point where we can just hit the raised areas or the recessed? I think because we already did the recessed on the crackle, let's do this one where we're going to ink the high points after we emboss it. Okay, perfect. Let's go in, get the folder. That's what we have. So I know that I'm going to want, I'm going to do the side that it's designed to do because my veins are then going to be popped up. So I'm going to do it the way the folder was designed. I'm going to spray this, but because it's inky, I'm just going to spray the back of it because I don't want to reactivate my ink. And let's just place it in the folder. Excellent. Bring in the switch. Open it up. Thanks, Mario.
Welcome.
Do a little angle. How are you guys doing? I'm reading the chat. I'm glad you guys are liking the demo because, look, I love the makes. I'm just a fan of makers and makes, but I also want people to just be inspired to start playing with stuff. So if you have the dies or the folders or you're waiting, oh, there was that sound. You heard it kind of change. There we go. I love it. That groaning is just it working hard, and I love that. I love it. So easy. Okay, close up a little door. Thanks, Mario. Mario's he's behind the scenes guy. He's keeping things going. I love that. Okay, so now we're going to take this out, and just by itself, it's already glorious. I mean,
Come on.
can we just look at that folder and say yes? Yeah, but it can get better because if you want to see more of the design, that's where we need to highlight it. And that's the difference. And if you don't want it, if you're like, no, I want it subtle, great, leave it. Do what you want. So what I'm going to do is I'll do a couple of colors. I'm going to do some ground espresso and I'll do a little bit of black soot. Could you just use one? Of course you can. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ink pad and I'm just going to go exactly as if you were going to ink the folder. I'm going to ink directly over the paper. It's not going to hurt your ink pad. The thing to remember though is the embossing is in different directions. So your inking needs to be in different directions. So don't just sit here and make horizontal stripes. Like just let your ink pad kind of dance over the surface and turn your surface, because then the pressure of this hand doesn't change. If you do this, then you're inking at a different pressure and you could over ink an area. And this is archival, so it's waterproof. So once you put it on there, like, you just better become friends with it because it's not going away. All right, I'm going to go back to a little bit more brown. Brown's just going to add, I think, a little bit of a shadow. It's a little bit lighter, but I love the outcome of that. So look at how that just, it's like it came into focus right in front of your eyes.
It really
And
did.
that's,
I stood here and watched.
yeah, and that's really just adding that little bit of ink. So there's a lot that goes into this, yes, but doing a whole sheet of paper, it's so many cards, it's so many different panels of things. It is meant to be cut up. So that's what I'm saying. When you do a piece, like, don't become attached to it. Just say, ooh, cool background. Great. For this card, I want that piece. I'm going to use this on a tag, you know, like how Pete uses it on a card, or Tammy B just used a split of it. But it's nice that when you do this, that you have a whole background, because then you yield more from it. That to me is what makes it really fun. And just the colors are, it's really beautiful. And it just uses stuff that you have. So like I said, as far as the recipe or the ingredients, if you skipped a color, who cares? If you didn't have all the spritz, who cares? If you didn't have an oxide spray, but you have an oxide ink pad and you can do that same little thing, do it. That to me is, I think, what is really fun about creating with it. Okay, moving on, we're doing good. I'm gonna keep going, as long as you guys are okay.
Go.
Okay, so let's just quickly do a few leaves, if you don't mind. I'm gonna just take a piece of Kraft. I do this a lot for fall and Halloween. It's kind of like how I was making that moon grunge. This is just Kraft Heavystock. So this is a really thick weight Kraft paper. But I always start with, like, I mean, I don't want to say grunge paper because that's going to get the chat to get all freaked out going, grunge paper's coming back. No,
Do not say that.
it's grungy paper that uses Kraft stock. So it's Distress Kraft Heavystock, because it's a heavy weight. It's really, what is the thickness of this sucker? 130 pounds. It's very thick. But I'll just show you just on a swatch, because I already have some made, how this is created. It's so simple. It's one color. And I know when you look at this, it looks like I use so many different colors. That's why I like to use it, because it's one color. If I can find that color, that was what's going to be the secret. Let's see. Boo-doo-doo. Oh my heavens. Nope, and nope. Oh my gosh, where is it? I'm digging in my basket. Frayed burlap. There we are. That's what it is. Frayed burlap. Frayed burlap spray stain is it. Why do I do this? I like foundational papers because we're going to ink this. And so I like that I already have like all my spots and all of that, so I can actually add color, because we're going to ink this with oxide. We'll use the new blending brushes and we're just going to ink some color. But I've got a foundation of grunge, if you will. That's why I said grunge, right? So all I do for this one, really quite simple, is I'm just going to give it a mist of water. I'm going to take frayed burlap. I'm going to give it a spray to start. Then I'm going to spray some on the sheet. I'm going to spray that with water. And then I'm just going to print in it. Just once. Start drying it. As it's drying, add some water to get that little flow. But not everything, because I want some little polka dots. And I'm pretty much going to use the stuff that's here. I'm just going to maintain the moisture. Have some big drops, have some little drops, and we're just going to dry it. So what's really cool about this color, especially on Kraft, is that when it's wet and you get, like, see how we had that fluid layer? Look at how it just creates already so many different tonalities of that one color. It's such a good color. Now, could you do this with pumice stone? Or yes, you could try whatever color you happen to have. It's just frayed burlap is my go-to, but if I was out of it and I had pumice, I would probably do that. All right, so I'm going to leave those little dots, but now I'm just going to go and splash into this a little bit, and we're going to dry it. Not worrying about anything yet, but I'm just keeping an eye on everything here. As it's drying, I want to keep it wet. I like some little dots. If I don't want that many little dots, could I add some water? Yeah, that'll break up the party. Really cool. That's it. And you just heat it up. All right. I see people are already talking about cleaning up. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me remind you, the point of the lesson is to play first, clean later. But if you were going to clean, I use Scrubby, which I'll talk about at the end. I do use a soap that does it. But yeah, you definitely have to commit to that. Look how this is getting. See, now we're just splashing and going. Having a great time. But see the craft sheet, it just, all of those little things, when I see them, I just smile, because I'm like, I'm going to use you. You're next. going right in there because it does. It creates everything magical. All right. And I'll show this before I even go and take another drip. Just look already at all the different colors and looks we have from one spray of frayed burlap, right? And I say one spray meaning spray there, but like you're just using it. So now I'm going to go into this, tap into those dots, and now my taps, I'm actually kind of smacking it down just to get those little dots. This is how this is created. It's so simple. It's so duh, but it's good. Yeah, you clean up whenever. You clean up at the end though. Because if you clean every background, again, you're using the part of your brain that you shouldn't when you're doing backgrounds. You just go for it. You could wear gloves as well, but this ink does. It cleans up super simple, super fast. Ooh, I'm liking it. So how do you know when you're done? Well, I don't know. You're just done when you're done. Depending on what I'm looking at. If I, and there again, if I like the background, I'm like, oh, I want something a little darker. Well, you already know. You do what you always do. If I want something darker, I'll normally go like this from the schnozzle, spray that, and then I'll hit it with just a little bit of water, which makes that bigger, and then dry it. And then that's it. That's kind of my last hurrah, because this is still going to be colored. This is not done at all. Okay. Here we go. But a cool way of doing paper, right? Simple background. So have a lot of it. Sit down one day and make paper and try different colors. Try old paper, try antique linen, try pumice stone, try whatever. Okay. Perfect. Grunge paper. All right. Let me, grungy paper, distress paper. Okay, I'm just going to clean up my craft sheet with a little bit of water. Clean that off. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's die cut these. Let's cut some leaves and then we'll kind of wrap this up. Where are we at? Oh, we're not bad. Gosh, that's shocking. I thought we would have tipped 3 hours by now, but we didn't. All right, let's just take some leaves. Let's take a bunch of them. I don't know what I want yet. So if I only take out the leaf, it's going to be the one I didn't take out, because that's just
I know that.
Huh?
I know that.
Yeah, because that's just how it is. All right. You could, if you have the switch, use the switch. Use what you have. I'm not that guy. I use what I want when I want it, because there's just certain things that I like to do the way I like to do them. But listen, you do you. I just think when I'm die cutting, I prefer to use a smaller machine because this has a ton of pressure. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to die cut out of this. I typically remember when I talked about, cutting rectangles and all that, go for it on certain backgrounds. But on this paper, I really do just kind of get whatever paper I want. Could I lay all these leaves on there? Yes. Do I? No. There you go. There you have it. I'm going to cut this way. I'm going to cut this. And why don't I, Mario? It's all about pressure. Pressure. Because just because a machine can take 1,000,000 dies doesn't mean you should do it. Because look how that cut once. If you would have laid all the leaves on here, you might have had to go 2 or 3 times, then it wouldn't cut. Then you get out your precision base plate because your die's not cutting. And it's really, you just put too much stress on the machine for it to do. So it's like, what's the rush? And plus I can kind of pick and choose and focus my real estate a little bit better. So, and that's why I like having smaller cutting pads, because smaller cutting pads just mean I can just do a shorter pass. See, I can go this way. Do I double cut? Just because. Why do I want to not have it cut? All right. And that's how I clean my dies. There you go. Throw it down. There's your piece. Already clean. Another leaf. Moving on. So now you're really seeing the process. And the process is quite freeing, honestly, because would I sit here and just cut a bunch of leaves one day? And maybe not one day, but maybe for an hour or so, because then I have a bunch of leaves that I can do things with later. See, it's already cleaned out. This I'll clean before I use it again, but typically I'll clean it that way. I know that's not the Sizzix way, but it's just an easy way. We talked about that last night. Yeah, it's an easy way to do it. It's my most favorite way. All right, now but see how I'm really getting a lot of things out of this, and I think that makes it really easy. Yeah, what you're gonna hear. It's like we're breaking glass around here. Okay. Like that. There we go. And you'll hear it. There we go.
All clean.
Thanks.
That's my favorite.
All right. And I'll do one more. But see what I mean? Like if you have a piece, you'll really get a lot out of it. And who knows, maybe you want to keep that background as something else. I don't know, maybe you will.
I can clean them faster than
Let's
you
see.
can cut them.
Yeah. Well, that's typically the case. I think I cut that all the way through. Let's see. Yeah, I did. Yay. Yeah, we'll get it. There we have it. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Mario. Let me get those dies out of the way. All right. So I'm just going to move this stuff out of the way. Now we have some leaves cut. But could you have done this? Could you have used the leaves on the sidekick? You can. They actually cut on the sidekick really well. They're sized pretty perfect. But that's just another tip. If you find that you're using dies and it's just not cutting, just check to see if you've overloaded. Because sometimes we do that because it's like, oh, I could cut them all at one time. It's like, yeah. Where can you get the smaller cutting pad? You can get the smaller cutting pads at Sizzix. They come in 3 different sizes in one multi-pack. There's the other one, and then there's a full one as well. So they're called multi-cutting pads. So you can get those. All right. So for this, I'm just going to go ahead and ink this up. I'm going to use some mini blending brushes and, there we go. Okay, can we see this? We're still on camera. Perfect. Use my little ink stand palette. Love this thing. We're going to use mini oxide. So here's the thing. And look, this might shock some people. I had this thing that I wanted to do that I don't know. This is kind of the new me. So if you saw the mini oxide release, you know that we now have mini oxides. There's 24 of the colors so far. But I kept them in separate tins, and I found like I love ink and oxide. You can see from the sprays, I love it. So this is my new organization system now. I put the ink and the oxide of the matching color, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, yes, I only have 4 tins of them now because those are my ink and oxide, but when I get all the colors, this is how I'm going to store them now. Because you see when I work, I love a little ink and I love to throw in an oxide, and I think having them in the same tin is cool. And then the rest of the colors that don't have their match, they're just still, distressing. But look, if you find yourself using both, that's just a little tip. So I think that's very cool. Cheryl, I haven't tried the small round cutting pads. I mean, I would imagine they would be really similar to what I did. So that's cool. So I'm just gonna work with some colors. So let's see what we wanna do. Let's pick some like leafy colors, but also do something a little fun. And I'm just going to do oxides for this one because we're on Kraft, and I think that's going to look, really cool. So let's just make a palette. Let's do that. We're going to do we'll do a little marmalade. We'll do some mustard. It doesn't have to be rainbowy. I know it's kind of what it's looking like, but it doesn't have to be. I do want to do some peeled paint, and then probably a little weathered wood. I'm going to go Stormy Sky on this. Okay, just creating a palette. Now you can have them out. If you don't have an ink stand, you don't have to use an ink stand. Again, use what you have. I'm going to use some tiny blending brushes. They're in the stand. That's how I work with them, but then I can put them away in the stand. And if you missed the live when these were released, go check it out. It's pretty cool. All right. Yeah, you could use a sidekick. A sidekick, I was using the fold away, but you can use a sidekick. It's just a little one, and you could do one leaf at a time, and they cut really well. I was surprised because it has a lot of little detail, but this little machine, it's a bomb. It works really well. So that's great for also on the road. Okay. Just making a quick, why am I doing a palette? Just because I think it's going to speed things up. It doesn't mean I'm not going to want to have a color that I didn't bring in the palette. Okay, so all I'm going to do on the leaf is just going to choose a brush, just using a tiny blending brush, and I'm just going to pick up some color, and it's just going to allow me to go in and add some color to this. Okay, you'll see in a second. And I'm just using the brush. So see, I'm just adding just a little bit of orange right now. We're gonna grunge this up a little bit, so don't worry too much. I'm gonna slide this up and put the cap on, because I'll probably really want some rusty hinge. I don't even know why I'm putting the caps on. Not yet anyway. I'm far from done. All right, pick some up, tap, tap, tap. Green, Gonna do a little light green. Gonna do a little dark green. Little peeled paint. Because I think I want some red. I think I want red over pink. I'm gonna swap picked raspberry. Ooh, there's some of that blue. It's gonna be good. Let's get rid of that one. Let's bring in some red. I think for this, let's go, oh, lumberjack might be a little dark. I'm gonna go with festive berries for this. All right, quick little swap. Okay. And just do some red. And we can, I mean, really, you can do all of the, you don't have to do all this kind of inking. It's just gonna show you some fun thing to do with the color. Okay, so far I've got some color on there, right? Just kind of blended a little bit. I'm just gonna mist it with some water, okay? So I'm not hosing it down, really kind of creating some droplets. And let's dry it. The thing about oxide is it needs water to oxidize. If you don't, it'll dry with like a kind of a chalky vibe, but it needs water to oxidize. And that's really ultimately what I want, is some of that oxidation to show up. So what that's doing is it's just, see how it's just creating a little bit more, I don't know, like intensity, if you will. Okay. Now we can also add a little bit of color on the outside. So lucky for me, I keep my ink and oxide in the same thing now. See, that's why I do it, because there's times I don't want to switch. So now I'm switching to an ink. What do I have? I got a clean brush. If I had oxide, I would just clean my brush off on a paper towel before I went into my ink. But I just have ink, so now it's just going to allow me just to go around the edges. The new little blending brush, if you don't have them, they are really cool. I mean, do I like the tiny blending tools? Yes, but there's a tool for everything. But I find myself like, this is kind of my go-to 99% of the time now. Because look, I was able to ink inside the edges of this by just doing this. If I did a blending tool, it would have like stamped a circle. Isn't that cool? That's a good color. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll do the next step to these, because we are going to do something to these. All right, let's go back to our plan. So see, the more you play with things, and you're like, could you do this with ink? Absolutely, you could do this with ink. But ink is going to not show up as far as intensity because we're on Kraft, right? So if you did like red on Kraft, it's going to look a little darker. It's going to look pretty brown. So that's why I chose oxide for this, because of that pigment. It's just adding a little interest. All right, let's do some green. And we can go into both greens. That's fun. All right, let's pick up some yellow. It's just a lot of fun to add some color. Okay, there we have it. Then go in with our water. Just some droplets, just so it has a chance to oxidize. Ah, cool. And I mean, it's going to be fun because I didn't want to demo Christmas stuff in this particular live, but I will be doing a demo as we get into the holiday season where I show you how you can use these for Christmas. And I know like makers like Tammy B, she did like a fantastic Halloween make with these one year. I think she cut these out of like, I think it was canvas, and like she did a whole black wreath out of these. It was fabulous. But then I've also seen, you know, like I said, magnolia, or even kind of, I know it's not a holly leaf, but like you cluster these with some berries and a bow, and it's pretty Christmassy. This also makes a fabulous poinsettia, believe it or not. It's massive, but if you did these in red and shaped it, you'd have a glorious big poinsettia. So there's a lot of things that you can do with these leaves besides, and that's why I wanted to demo with them too, because they're only out now. They're only back for the classic, because when these are gone, the classics are not part of the line. The classics are a limited return. When Sizzix sells out, they're gone. Doesn't mean they won't come back some other year, who knows, but they're not part of the line that you can get once they sell out. So it's just important to kind of think ahead of what inspires you. Okay, we got a couple of leaves. Not bad, right? Pretty? Okay, let's just cap these up. I won't put them away in the tin, but that makes it really nice. Okay, move this out of the way. Okay, what are we going to do with these? All right, I'll clean up later. These, okay, we can do some pretty cool things with the leaves that I wanted to share with you, and then we can kind of wrap this up because I'm having a good time. What I was really happy about with the return of this die, the leaf die, was knowing that we were doing this folder, okay? They're not meant to pair together, but I knew the scale of this folder would really accent these leaves great. So if you've watched the live since we started, you've seen all the stuff that we've done, correct? Including inking a folder. So when you ink the folder, like when we inked the cracked, okay, you have to decide what part you're debossing. So remember on the crack we did the skinny lines? It would be the same for the leaf. So it's actually the opposite side that we would be inking. But what I find really fascinating is that you can take a leaf and completely transform the leaf with the embossing folder, okay? Now, just to show you like a white version, all we're going to do is by adding ink to this folder, it's going to change this flat leaf and give it the coolest texture, even if you don't ink it. Like that's the reverse side. So it could be either way, but if you want to ink the deboss, you have to ink where you see the skinny lines. But if you don't ink it, you're going to get a cool texture no matter, right? Fabulous. So now that we have this big one, it's like, so even if you hate this folder as a background, where you're like, I would never use this, it looks like, you know, leaves blew into a wet cement sidewalk and someone forgot to clean it. Whatever you think of that, if you have, if you like the leaves, if you like the leaves, this folder itself is just going to level them up because you have so many different options as far as veining, pattern, scale, okay? So I did a bunch of them, just so, and I'll do some live, but like, these are just backgrounds that I did. And now that you've seen them, like you can recognize, oh, there's some oxide he did there. This one, that was one of the backgrounds where, oh, I can see where he had some spritz. So any little scrap, I also cut leaves from. You know, when I have a background, it just has enough to do a leaf. But look at how all of these are debossed and they just look so amazing, so glorious because they actually have a texture, okay? So let's do it to these. Do it to the ones that, heck, we can even do it to the ones we didn't ink because maybe we want to spritz them. I don't know. But I want to just kind of show you how I approach this. Now there again, do I try to load this up with 30 leaves? No, if you have your favorite, you do one at a time. Who cares? I go with black archival on this one. Why black? Because I want it to show up the best. But if you wanted it to be more subtle, maybe use vintage photo or ground espresso or just something else, okay? So here I'm just going to take this and there again on the line side, I'm just going to ink that. You guys see that? There, that's the part that I inked. I'm going to take the leaf and I'm going to try to just kind of follow the vein to go, okay, it's here and it's going to go to here. Okay, good enough. Perfect. Then I'm going to place this down, close it up, hold it. This would already be on my table somewhere else, my machine. You get the idea. Look, the fact that we could even pull this off on a tiny little table under an iPhone is pretty darn impressive. Okay, and for this one, it just needs one pass, okay? Now, if you can get this, because this folder will still work with a Vagabond or a fold away. It's just easier in a demo to use this one. I don't necessarily like to demo with the Vagabond because you have serious FOMO if you didn't get it back in its day.
Take something?
Huh? Thanks, Mario. Sure. I'll give you that. Because I'm going to do another leaf, but let's do the reveal. All right. Open this up. Look at that. Isn't that just cool? Now, let's bring back the unembossed one. So it looked just as beautiful, but do you see how it is totally different now?
Totally.
Completely. It's.
Now I see why you hate it white.
Yeah. I mean, because when you look at it, you're like, well, it's okay. But, and it is a leaf, but when you see this, you're like, come on. Like, why would. I don't want to say why would you own one without the other, because I'm not like a hard sell guy. But I loved when we knew this was getting bigger and I got the sample in, I was like, oh my gosh, let me just see. And I'm like, oh, it was meant to be that the die came back and the folder was enlarged at the same time. So cool. So let's do another one. So this, I don't think I want to do this one. I think this one, you know, you can pick because this one's a little bigger. This one's a little skinnier. Oh, that one up there, that one could work. It's probably not as, I mean, I probably need to stick with this one because it's a taller leaf. If I do the shorter leaves, I use the smaller ones here, but I think this one's best for both of the tall ones. And since we did that, that's what we're going to do. But I'll actually do 2 leaves for this one. I'll do this and I'll do this one over here. Again, I'm just archival on the line part. So let's put this leaf in. So when you do the leaf, don't worry about the stem of the leaf. Don't worry about that. You want to start the vein right at the base of the leaf, and just kind of eyeball it, line it up. You don't need to tape it. You don't need to do, just, you kind of get what you get. Just kind of figure it out. It'll be okay. And I want to sound so bossy when I say don't do it, but you don't need to do it. Let's say that. You don't need to tape it down. Oh, thanks, Mario.
Okay.
So I kind of secure everything under there, and then I can hold on to it, and then I'll just bring the machine in. Ish. There we go. There we go. Okay. Beautiful. You're right, Amy. You get what you get, you don't throw a fit. Because I guess the reason, because look, I listen to my live sometimes and I'm like, man, you really sound like a jerk. And I don't mean to come off as a jerk. I just mean to try to encourage you to stop overthinking things, because the fear that some makers have, or even some teachers are like, be careful when you do this. You're going to, like, just get over the fear factor, because you can enjoy it so much more if you just play. Look at that leaf. Fabulous. That has no oxide. Look at that with the oxide. So good. So let's say you did a bunch of leaves and you're like, well, I still want to go back and, I'd love to add the colors of spritz and speckly and sprinkly. Can you do all that stuff? Absolutely. If you were already done with stuff, let's just say this, and now you wanted to go back and add spritz, could you? Yes. Would I typically? Not necessarily. I wouldn't, but hey, sometimes I like to just go and kind of change my plan. So now I'm just going to do a little spritz there. So not much. Little spritz. Do another color. Spritz are really, if you think of it as like the sprinkles of creativity. I can't believe Distress and sprinkles together. But like you put sprinkles on ice cream and it just like finishes it. Like, that's what I think of spritz sometimes, is that it's just a great finisher, because it doesn't take away from what you're doing. It just adds the magic of it. And I would love more colors. I don't think more colors of spritz would ever happen, but man, if the Ranger chemists ever decided that they wanted to attempt it, I would be all over. I'd be all over that. And we're going to resist spray one of these too, because if my resist spray hasn't clogged by now, because I didn't clean it, but that's okay. All right, do a little crackling over here. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, let's just dry these. Well, almost. Jeez, I like sprinkles. Can you tell? So I like spritz. I do. So does Dina. Okay, let's just dry these real quick, and we'll hold them up, because I also want you to see, how you can just keep changing with all of your stuff. All right. So it just adds that little shimmer of spritz. See the little dots, a little orange, a little yellow, a little blue. It doesn't take away, it adds to it. Like, look at that one. Even that, and that's just the brown. So that one has no ink. All of our color is coming from the spritz. And this one was just one that was already done, who knows what and when, but man, it's a good one. Okay, let's clean this up. We'll resist, and then I promise we can wrap this up and be done. Okay, the goal though is to find my towel, just over here. Okay, so resist spray, we're gonna get back the splat box, which, what did I do with it?
I have it.
Oh yeah, can you bring that in? Thanks. Yeah. See, meant to be. Mario's going to get that so we can see the resisted. Yeah, remember the resist spray on the crackle? We got to see that. Perfect. But we'll see. We'll go ahead and change some of these, because it just adds. It's crazy. I'm going to keep one of them. I'm going to keep one of the inked ones like unresisted, and you can see which one you like. We can even do one that hasn't been done. Hope you guys are enjoying the demo. I like to show things to hopefully get you wanting to make. That's the whole idea of making. All right.
There was a good
Thanks, Mario. Perfect. Thanks.
I saw someone I worked out. Are you retired now?
No. Retired would be.
This is retired. I want to be to work.
Exactly. Like, retired? No. I'd like to. If I was retired, I'd like to be on a beach. But yeah, no, I wouldn't like to be on a beach. I'd roast. All right, let's go back to this. So this is the crackle background that we sprayed resist spray on. So you see how it didn't change the color, didn't change the coloration, but see just that little shine? It looks more like a cracked veneered paint. I just think it has such more a realistic vibe with resist spray. So that's what I like. I just think, I don't always do it, but if you ever want to give that like a little bit of a shine, it's very, very cool. Okay, so let's take this and we're gonna do one of the leaves. Okay, let's see, have we clogged it yet? No, good, it's still working. All right, just gonna do a little resist spray. And this one, thanks Mario.
Sure.
This one I'm just gonna dry with a heat tool. Because you can dry resist spray with a heat tool. It's just, you also don't have to. You can just wait. We're just not waiting because we're wrapping this up. But this way you can quickly see how it changes. It still keeps the oxide oxidized. It still keeps the spritz all spritzy. But this, Okay. You see the difference? So these were both the same Kraft that we did the oxide on and spritz, and they're both beautiful, but just that little bit of resist, I think, just gives the paper leaf more life. Now, could you do this? I mean, there's a lot of things. You could put a gloss medium on it. You could do clear embossing powder. There's a lot of things, but resist spray is like zippity-doo quick. And you could paint on resist spray as well if you didn't want to spray it. But yeah, I'd just like you to see how it completely, not only does it transform the paper, but I think it even intensifies the color a little bit. Like I think the greens and yellows and reds, they just pop a little bit more, but it doesn't impact the spritz or anything else. So there you go. A lot of fun, a lot of cool ideas, amazing makes from the makers that Sizzix did. Really cool.